All right, friends.
You opened up my mirror.
I want to make sure you can see yourself this morning.
You look at it.
I ended up with two. Is anyone missing there?
He was setting up the room, we were cleaning the tables, and he said, well, this one has two, so.
Because Jamie has none.
Welcome to our final day, 6 months later. A short, sweet 6 months, and nothing's changed at all, right, Anjanette?
God, the world's been turned upside down.
I'm going to close this door, and while I'm doing that, I just want to invite you, just again, as we started these last couple of days, to be in the room, right? So take a moment and just scan the room and find 3 simple things that you notice. All right, so 3 things that you see.
I know.
It's always interesting because now you all know what's coming, and you've probably started already. It's like, okay, what do I hear? And it's interesting when you slow down and bring intention to hearing and all the stuff that you just don't notice until you start with that intention, you lead with that intention. So listen for 2 sounds you can hear. And scan your body. Maybe start the pressure, feel your feet on the floor. Start looking for sensations you can feel. Maybe it's your seat in the chair or other things going on internally in your body. Scan for a sensation you can feel. I know we began yesterday with my friend Sam, and I also know we began this whole journey with my friend Sam as he was talking about our relationship with challenges and speed bumps. And one of the things that I often talk to you all about is the gap and the gain, and how common it is to look at ourselves or a situation, how we're showing up through the gap, through the place of, I'm not there yet. Right? We treat life as there's somewhere to get to. And the only thing we're sure of is we're not there yet. And I'm often inviting us to instead flip it and look at it from the gain. And look at where we were 6 months ago. And I think about all the things we've talked about and how we deal with challenges, and how that same meditation or guided opening, like we're more equipped to deal with some of those speed bumps, some of the things that feel like challenges, some of the people that can feel like challenges or situations. And so I thought it was only fitting that as we come and close our final day, we go back to Sam and not revisit that same guided opening, but he recorded something else that really spoke to me. And as I was reflecting last night, I was just thinking about this room and thinking about each of you and thinking about the things that have happened here at the hotel, the things that have happened, and we've talked about in our individual sessions and in laser sessions and in messages back and forth. This felt like a great way to kick off our final day. So.
Greatness. Are you ready to step into your greatness? Only joking. You can't step into something that you already are. You don't need to be ready to step into your greatness. You simply need to stop stepping out of it. I was in my friend Karen's creation yesterday, a beautiful space called Body House. She gave us this wonderful invitation, and it was to surrender to your greatness. What happens for you when I invite you to surrender into your greatness? To remember who and what you already are. And if your mind's playing tricks on you and telling you that this isn't true for you, then thank it and let it drop to the side. Every single one of us is great. You never look at a baby and think, oh, one day they'll grow into their greatness. They're not there yet. So if that's true about every single newborn, they are already great. It has to also be true about you. I see you. When are you going to start seeing yourself?
I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands or anything like that, but I want you to sit with this question and just ask yourself, do I know that to be true about me? Like, can we really see that? Can we see our greatness? Can we see greatness as what we innately are? Not a place to get to, not a place to figure out, not a place to, well, when I check enough boxes or achieve enough things or get enough outside validation. And can we really see that we are already great? I mean, do you know that that is true about you? And again, you can answer quietly. Because as we wake up to that, and that's what a lot of this journey has been about, waking up to that, coming from that place. Right? How do you enter a room? How do I enter a room from a place of greatness as the starting point rather than a place to one day get to? How do you have that conversation? How do you tackle that project? How do you work your way through the challenge? If we're coming from a place of this isn't about proving or validating or being anything other than what we already are. And it gets really interesting because if we can see, if we can really start to wake up, and I think, again, we talked about this yesterday, I think this is a lifelong journey to continue waking up to our greatness, right? To really see ourselves. But the beautiful thing is, as we start to see more of who we really are, who else do you all think we begin to see greatness in? Yeah, everyone. You know, and it's so different when you're having a conversation with one of your employees and it's greatness speaking to greatness. Even if we don't like an outcome, even if we don't like the way we're showing up, even if we have some thinking and ways of being that are making it more difficult that we have to navigate. But much like I talked about the therapist yesterday, am I starting from a place of we need to fix this person, or we need to change this person, or something. There's something innately wrong, and maybe one day they'll get their stuff together. Or are we speaking to the highest version of themselves? And are we speaking to their greatness, their excellence? And if we can really see it, how differently might we talk, might we speak? And as you're picturing yourself in that room with somebody on your team or somebody you work with, and you're imagining how you might be speaking to them, and perhaps you're seeing new opportunities or different opportunities, I wonder how we're speaking to ourselves in the quiet moments. How do we speak to ourselves when we get it wrong? How do we speak to ourselves when something doesn't go the way we'd love it to go? Or when we're not proud of a moment that we showed up in? Do we judge ourselves? Do we have language of judgment, language of critic? And then do we set another marker out in front of us of one day I'll get there, if only I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I will be fill in the blank? Or is it just an opportunity to settle back into who we already are, to love ourselves into the next opportunity, the next way of being? Today, how do you wrap up a 6-month journey? Well, we begin by looking back at some of what we've taken, some of what we experience, and what we can learn in a moment. And I didn't tell her I was going to do this, but Alicia, I would love for you to share what you shared with me this morning. You probably already knew I was going to do it, even though I didn't tell you.
Yeah. I heard you whisper.
It was it's such a good story. And as she, and before she does, I just want to invite, after she shares kind of something she took out of yesterday and just her experience of it today, I would love to know anything else that has come up for you guys from our conversation yesterday, from our exploration of integrity and the power of integrity, from the impact moving into action has on ourselves, on our teams, on our results. But we'll start with Alicia.
So I think it was the last exercise yesterday where we shared like one thing that we had taken away from the day that we were going to move forward with. And Nancy and I were sharing, and I said, I'm going to start the integrity audit like in real time, and because that's something that really resonated with me. Like doing what I say I'm going to do. Call to make the appointment, reply to the email, send the message. And so I went home and we were watching TV, my husband and my 16-year-old, and I said, I have a little announcement to make. I'm going to really work on doing what I say I'm going to do. So is there anything that I have been telling either of you that I'm going to take care of or do that I haven't done? And they were like, no. I was like, okay. So then my husband got up early this morning to go meet a friend to take a walk. And before bed, he said, I'll take the dog out before I leave. And so he left, and it was thundering this morning, so he sent me a text saying Duchess would not go outside because of the thunder. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was lazy this morning and, lolling about, drinking my coffee, and I just knew in my mind, I'm not going to try to take the dog out. And so, sure enough, I did my time exactly right, to be able to leave on time. And I sat down in the car and I sent my husband a text. I said, Duchess wouldn't go out for me either. And as soon as I hit send and I pushed the ignition, I was like, damn it! I'm already out of integrity. And so I felt so bad. And when I came in, I was the first one here, and I said, Tara, I'm already out of integrity. I was like, what do I have? Because then, the other thing I immediately thought was, do I have to tell him that I lied about this stupid thing? And so, sure enough, I was like, I texted him, I was like, I have a confession. I I didn't try to take the dog out, and I'm really sorry. And he wrote back because I thought he's gonna be like, what is wrong with you? He lies about something stupid like this, but he's like, it's okay. I'm really sorry. No more white lies. I feel great.
I'm gonna have to take the dog out.
Yeah.
You know, I asked my therapist, because Ted and I argued over white lies. And I had a therapy appointment that day, and I went in to Lisa, and I said, do you believe in white lies? Like, do you think they're okay? And she said, absolutely. And I said, what are you talking about? I was raised, you just never lie. You're always honest, whether it's bad or not. Okay, cops, daughter. And I said, what? She goes, if it doesn't matter, it's okay.
Maybe if the white lie would save someone,
Save some
feelings, like if it's something that.
Well, then my
But
girlfriend
my
out there in the
white lie-
hotel room needs to figure that out. She don't care.
I don't know. I asked my youngest son, I always ask him, I was like, do you like my outfit? He was like, yeah, it looks nice. And I said, does it? Do you really like it? He said, yeah. I said, if you didn't like it, would you tell me? He said, no. I said, well, how can I believe you? What you said?
Well, and there is
I'm proud of you. That was great.
Thank you.
Honestly.
there is a cost to little white lies. You know, one of the things that some of us may experience is, you know, sometimes none is better than some, right? Because when it's some, it's like, well, okay, where's the line? Like, we're always having to figure out, is this on this side of the it's okay line, or is this on this? And look, we're all going to be caught in this stuff, but there is a cost, right? And I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody to not have little white lies or to have little white lies, but it's funny if you think back to some of what we've been exploring, where does that fall, right? Why the lie? Pleasing, right? So making somebody else feel good and things like that. And then what is the impact? I mean, it's funny, our language gives us away. But Jamie's response just now was, well, how can I believe you? Right? Suddenly, her son's power and ability to be a mirror for her has lessened. Right? And we don't think about it like that. We don't think about it in real time, but that's the real cost. Right? When you watch your friends, and we've all been there where we've watched somebody have a little white lie in real time. And that little thought shows up, I wonder if they do that to me. Right?
You can call Violet.
You're like, Violet stands in her power. No power leakage there. You know, and as Alicia and I were talking, so I love that story. And I didn't even know that you stood up and shared that with your husband and your son last night. And that's how we create through language, right? That is you stepping into power. That is you creating yourself as, hey, this is what taking a step forward looks like. And they're going to be impacted by that, right? They're going to see potentially something new for them. David, I know you do a great job of sharing kind of what you're learning and what you're playing with. You know, we've all kind of played and tried different things that we've seen in here, or things we've learned, or things we've heard from other people. I love the way you tell your people, hey, this is something that I saw, or something that I've explored, or something I'm going to be tried sometimes. It's like, you create context with your language, and then you step into it. And then other times you just show up like that. They're like, what's different?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the white lie, because like, what about when you're leaving someone and, I don't know, there's something that you need to address because someone, like say Alicia, may have brought up something to me that relates to someone on my team.
Yeah.
There's something that I've noticed anyway, so I bring it up more in the local context, and then they'll say, did someone say something? You know, they might remember some conversation, some interaction, and a lot of times just to keep the peace, because I'm kind of a compromiser, I don't tell them. Because I don't want to create any animosity.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you flip it to a positive way?
I think that's what I try to do, but
I think,
I don't know that sometimes
Saying it without saying it?
even for me, it feels like I'm lying to
Yeah.
the trusted
And so that's the other cost, right? There's a cost to us knowing we're BSing people. You know, there's a cost to walking around with that. There's, you know, a lot of some of the anxiety and burnout and some of the stuff we saw on the chart yesterday it had nothing to do with what happens out here. It happened to do with what's going on in my internal world, right? The impact of walking around with resentment at times or some of these other things. It's like, even if, well, we think they can't feel it, but that's the other thing. There's an energy to dishonesty, right? There's an energy to distrust. There's an energy to, there are people on your team that if we got really honest, like, yeah, I don't quite trust that person as much. And if I asked you to tell me why, you might not even have great reasons. There's just something about it and about them. And then you start feeling bad about yourself because, like, I don't even know if they've done anything but they feel less trustworthy to me, right? And who they're being and how they're showing up. So, you know, so often little white lies end up being kicking the can down the road. And I would just invite us to go back to, you know, would we, and this isn't something to answer out loud, but I said, look, you can have a leader standing in front of you that is willing to be honest with you even when it's hard, that is willing to have the conversation straight up from a place of love and care, not a place of judgment. Or a leader who, if there's anything they think you might not like or they think just doesn't matter, is very comfortable telling little white lies to you. Who do you want to work for?
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Because I've definitely had leaders that don't like honesty. And so, as much as I feel like that is a comfortable position to be in,
Like, to be honest?
to be forward,
Yeah,
to be honest, to say something earnestly. You're dancing with somebody in somebody else's sort of this is their two-step, and even if I don't like it, and if it's creating between us this sort of inherent distrust that we're both not expressing with my own subordinates, and I'll be able to say, we'll practice this, that if I'm engaging with this in this way, I've got to create a sense of normalcy about being dishonest with you because it's what you appreciate and prefer.
Your leader prefers you being dishonest with them.
Yes.
Don't talk about unpleasant things.
Yes.
Don't talk
Yeah.
about problems.
Yes. Let things be nice.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're not, so here's the other thing about our word and about honesty, and this is where I think it gets really interesting and we actually get more powerful, is can I have that conversation, can I be with that leader without, you know, lying, without, you know, how do I have that conversation? Now, being our word or being in integrity is not about I have to give them everything, I have to tell them exactly what I'm thinking or exactly how I see it or things like that. So it's not here it all is, right? So if somebody asks me something, you know, when we talk about acknowledgments, I don't want to go and say, I love your outfit, it looks great, if I don't love your outfit and I don't think it looks great.
Yes.
But we can probably find something else to acknowledge around. So I think there's an opportunity for us as leaders to say, how am I using my language and where am I not using my language at all? Right? So to me, stepping into this, you know, honesty and not lying is not about, you know, God's weighing in. God's weighing in. Like, let me tell you what I think about it. It's sure we want to clock our leaders and things like that. And here's the other thing. I think we can sometimes get in trouble, especially people wired who, look, I want to be forward. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable and I'm willing to say the thing and have the conversation with a leader who's not. Because we expect, well, because I'm willing to stand in integrity, I expect the people around me to do the same. Steve Hardison would tell you, don't expect anybody to be integrity. Like, what we're talking about is so rare. So you're setting yourself up to be disappointed if you think the people around you are coming with that same standard of integrity. Right? And we want it, we would love to have it, but he would tell you, I don't expect, the leader you're speaking to, that's what I would expect from most leaders, from most people, is we stay out of being uncomfortable. Right? I don't want these things. So if there's something you need to communicate, I think there's an art to how do we communicate this? How do I stand in my integrity? How do I be honest to the point that is honest for me? And if it's, well, I want to give it all to you, but they can't hear it, then another part of this is how do we communicate and work with people in a way that they can hear, they can receive, right? That leader, I'll be always playing with, okay, like how much, okay, that was too far, that was over the line, right? Didn't respond well. What is useful here? What do they need to know? Like, how do I both stand in my honesty and integrity and share what I need to share? Or if they ask a question, can I offer an answer to that question in a way that is honest, that I walk away feeling great about what I just gave? And if they don't ask a question, I'm probably not being as proactive, bringing that leader a bunch of stuff that they're going to see as uncomfortable or things like that. You know?
Can't you kind of also use that as your North Star of like what you can live with and what you can't?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. There is, with everything, it's funny, we do it every day. There is a theme. You know, I mentioned the science of scaling yesterday. I was just talking to Mackenzie about this today before you all came in. Can we go to page 60? All right, we are going to take, this is going to be so far out of context around how this book was written. Brittany's laughing because she's read the book. She's like, this has nothing to do with integrity or anything else, and yet it has everything to do with integrity. Right? So there is a concept in the science of scaling, and he talks about raising the floor. And Mackenzie was telling me about a project he did and the amount of time he put into it, and it ended up only being about $40 an hour. And he said, look, it was just one day. It didn't take a ton of time, and it happens very rarely. So it was fine. But if this kept happening, that'd have a real impact on his time, on his business. And so I told him a little bit about this idea of the floor, right? And when we raise our floor, I said, yeah, for all of us business owners, for all of us leaders, we have to figure out what are the things that are beneath our floor. Right? What are the things that we're saying yes to that are beneath our floor? Now, for somebody like Mackenzie, who in a lot of ways is paid for his time, right? It's his skill, his expertise, but his time is a limited resource. And so if he keeps saying yes to a lot of things below his floor, he is sabotaging what his business is capable of, right? If I'm giving my time to things that are beneath my floor, and let's just make up a number. If his floor from a financial standpoint is $100 an hour, and I'm saying yes to $40 an hour activities, well, then I'm going to have a lot less time for the $100 an hour opportunities that come through. Right? If we find ourselves busy as leaders, if we look across all the things we do, I'm willing to bet we could all identify things that are beneath our floor. Right? And the way I usually talk to clients is, what are you doing today that other people on your team can be doing? And it's always a fairly long list. And then what are the things that are unique to you? So I think similarly, we can create this floor around integrity or anything in our life. And it says, when you raise your floor, it means you no longer justifying things in your life that hold you back. You're making uncomfortable, sometimes unpopular decisions. You're letting go of something that was acceptable before but no longer is. You're increasing your character, maturity, and standard in all you do. This is crucial to leadership, culture, and scaling. It's funny because the book only talks about it from the concept of, you know, the decisions we make and what we're saying yes to and what we're investing in. But I think it absolutely applies to this as well. So when you talk about North Star, sometimes North Star is helpful, but the North Star is kind of that thing we sometimes touch. Right? It's that guiding principle, but do we ever really get there? Whereas if we think about it of our floor, it's kind of like, hey, my floor is, I'm not going to tell white lies. I'm not going to be dishonest. Now, that may not mean I'm going to divulge everything I'm thinking or feeling or everything I would like if I had a more courageous leader or a more truth-forward leader or a leader who is comfortable being uncomfortable or more comfortable being uncomfortable or at least willing to be uncomfortable, then this conversation may look different. But what I'm not going to do is if they ask me a question, right, at some point we're going to have an honest conversation about if you don't want me to be honest, and then if you ever ask me, I'm going to tell you. Mm-hmm. If you're uncomfortable with me telling you, then you know there's an approach here, but we have our floor and how we see it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we could do like a role play with hard conversations because I find myself like waiting until the situation gets like almost out of control to have them because I'm nervous or anxious myself.
Yeah.
So I could definitely use some tips on how others are having those hard conversations and approaching them.
I love it. So let's make this today, right? If there are things that would be useful to you, let's create them, right? That's nowhere in the plan, and absolutely. So
Have a call with Daryl first, and then sit with your employee for 2 hours and get through it. But I would have never been able to get through it if we wouldn't have had that call first.
Yeah.
And then she called in sick for 2 days, and then I had to wait, and then finally do it. But it turned out so well. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you want somebody else besides your brother, but it,
There's so much wisdom, I think you would be great at this for some, Tiffany, I bet you
was
are.
that Kate sitting next to you?
Yes, I bet you are great at this. I bet there are many people that have had these tough conversations and have really wise ways of approaching them.
So set the table for us, Damian, because I want to make sure this is helpful for you. Set the table. So it sounds like, and let's really start at the beginning of this, right? So it sounds like, and it's come into your awareness, right? So you say, hey, okay, something's gone on, something's happened. Is there a real example?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Give us a real. I was about to say, it's always easier and better when we just make it real.
All right, sure. So I've got a security guard who is really social and funny, but also playful, and his energy kind of sets the tones for a lot of his, just what he does. And I really need him on the floor. And in the hallway to ensure that kids aren't coming out of classrooms, they aren't playing around, they're not goofing off in the restrooms, they're not doing any of the things. But I often find that he's hanging out, in an office, or just talking with someone, just not really where he needs to be. And honestly, because he's so jovial and joking all of the time, he sometimes is I don't know how to approach it because I'm not that way. And he'll be dude, fix your face, you look so serious. And I'm not even feeling that way, but I don't want some crazy comeback. I don't want some crazy comeback to when we need to have some real conversation. Probably a little bit intimidated by him too, because I don't want some crazy comeback. So.
He said, dude, fix your face.
Just it's a way of saying
Smile. I know, but it's also a little disrespectful to somebody that's your boss.
I mean, but that's just kind of his.
No,
he's a coach. He's just very playful in that way.
Playful, but I'm just.
Yeah, but the whether he's being disrespectful or not just doesn't even matter. It just doesn't matter. Yeah, but I mean that's where we get caught up, right? Because even he's over here saying he's not being disrespectful, right? It's disrespectful in someone's mind. Well, that is disrespectful. Somebody else will be like, that's just part of the culture, or that's just how we talk, or that's just the relationship we have. So one person will experience that as disrespectful, which is a trigger for you, right? And another person will be like, that's just what it is. So even in that, we can find the neutrality. And it is so easy to get sidetracked by, I feel disrespected by this thing, and we can never even have the real conversation and get to what's at the point.
If you just let people, oh, it's just them. So you're not saying, oh, it's just them. A lot of people get let off the hook because
I think that
we let them
it's
be
also,
assholes.
I think leadership is also about choosing, right? So
Yeah.
I am choosing not to be pissed about every little thing,
Right.
Based on my knowledge of that person. Or I would literally be an angry human being all day.
And Jeanette, if you...
I'm sorry, and I need the joy.
Yeah.
It does bring a lot of joy.
Yes.
And so I do need that.
And this is the control part, right? You can kind of hear how it's oh, I'm choosing to focus on the things I have control over. And if you experience somebody, if you had an employee doing that and that was disrespectful, and you felt disrespectful and you didn't want to see that this is not about, we'll just let it go. No, you can create that conversation and agreement and have that conversation from this place, right? And Damian, I really respect it. it just doesn't, like, that's a him thing and that's how he is. And I can feel the intention and know there's nothing behind it, so I can just be with that. So on your, I thought you just did.
Jamie,
I'm
I'm sorry,
so bad.
Because the scenario you're describing is the situation that happened exactly with my son. Like everything if you didn't say you were at my school, this is the same security guard. They were very playful, always joking with the kids, talking around, walking around, not really, just sometimes too playful. And my son has severe alopecia. And he's a teenager and he's in school with a bunch of little kids. And a security guard made a very, "Oh, man, who cut your hair? I ain't come." And my son did not respond positively to that. And he sent him to the principal for a referral. And she said, "He should be suspended for talking that way." And the woman sat with, which I love, she had a conversation with my son, she had a conversation with the security guard. She said, "I'm not gonna punish your son for him being put in a situation by an adult in this way, and him responding negatively because he created an environment for this to happen," which I respected. But when it feels like nothing, "Oh, I can talk to you this way," there could be situations where it doesn't turn out as positively. Let's say my son was the kind of kid who felt like, "You've embarrassed me in front of all my friends, and I already feel so insecure about this. I'm gonna go home." And we had a child that was son committed suicide. So I don't think that it's wrong to feel like that's a serious situation, even if he doesn't see it. And "Oh man, you should." It's like, "Hey, I love you being here. As you bring joy and happiness and laughter, but there's times and places, and sometimes I need you in the halls being attentive to the environment and students. And even if you want to go around, and you've got to find balance in the same way that if you felt like I might be too serious sometimes, maybe I need to find balance. But this is something that I expect and need from you, and that has to happen because I don't think that just, oh, I'm uncomfortable, so I don't want to say, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing, or he's just being lighthearted and playful, is serving him best, and you're his leader, and you see that there's problems, and that you see that there's growth. So I think that it is finding the balance between, yeah, if I'm uncomfortable in this situation, maybe there's going to be a child that's uncomfortable in this situation, or another teacher or someone else, and it's right to say, and if you're giving him good leadership, I'm going to take this discomfort.
I'm so sorry. My wife was called 4 times.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But thank you for that feedback.
No,
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I'm calling you Jamie Dean. Yeah, it was very beautifully said.
It's gonna be hard to coach the chair.
The thing is, even if he wasn't paying attention, it is recorded.
Yeah.
He was distracted.
Really quick, while we're on this, I really like Jamie's approach, but I might approach it a little bit differently. I might say to this gentleman, I see you in the halls, and you have an infectious personality, and people look up to you, and people see you as a leader. But these are the challenges that our system or our school is facing, and here's why we need to change that or develop that or make a change. And I think this set of behaviors that you can display can really make an impact in us achieving those things. And I think that gives him a little bit more, or the person, the security guard, a little bit more control in deciding how he wants to act, or like how the person he wants to be in order to impact the school. So.
Yeah.
I think that because you're setting a new expectation. Like you don't have to be a different person. You have to make different choices in this environment because they don't always serve us best in this way. I like that a lot.
So something interesting is happening as I'm just watching, and I don't know if anybody else is catching it, but like leaders are solvers, we're fixers, right? And we've zoomed straight into the conversation with this gentleman. And what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I struggle to even move into that conversation. It's less about what happens and what I want to say or communicate or look at the situation, but it's my discomfort in having the conversation, how to set up the conversation to be an effective one, coming from a place of a bit of intimidation, right? A place of, I think he's great. Like I hear affinity for this guy, and this is less about what do we do if we're both having a mature conversation, and even how do we get to that point? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. And like like I said earlier, I'll have the conversation when it's like desperation, like
Yeah.
I'll do, but like he's also had my back in really tough situations, like when I'm not in the room. That's, as you all know, it's rare to find somebody that's like willing to have your back when somebody else is talking. And so I also like really, really respect that and like love that. And that's been such a rarity in my life that I'm like, so that kind of adds to the.
What are you afraid of?
Complexity.
What are you afraid of?
What?
Mhm.
I think I'm afraid of pissing him off and losing that person that did have my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually see it as very disrespectful of the security guard, understanding great personality, all the different personalities. But you're his supervisor and you're creating this culture. So to me, it's, and knowing you as little as I know, but knowing how strongly you take values and treating people kindly, it's so imperative to you and so important to you that you're creating this space where there is laughter, there is joy, there is compassion, but there's also respect. And as you're creating this environment, this work culture, school life that you want it to be, you can have fun, but there's boundaries. And the security officer needs to understand, you don't say that to me. You don't say fix your face. You don't really say it to anybody. You could say it to other people, but don't say it to me, because to me there is that line there.
And see, I'm not worried.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. Like we treat language as it's all the same. There are people in this room that are like, that's not disrespectful at all.
Yeah, no.
And there are other people that are like, that's very disrespectful. And but this is what we do. We go around, well, I think this is disrespectful, and we treat that as fact. And I could easily say, well, what agreement do you have about being jovial, joking, things like that, right? And we could create an agreement about, if we really strip this down to fact and story, what part of this is fact?
He wants to know the grounds of the home.
Yeah, what part of this is fact? Let's take even this moment of this guy saying, fix your face, which has triggered a couple of us. Like we see as disrespect. What part of that is fact?
I'm gonna try it on my friends back home and see what they say. I don't think it's gonna go over well.
What? And I'll be honest, people in our culture, people in the black culture, like for a lot of us, that wouldn't even rise to the level of.
11-year-olds. Like I tell Daryl all the time, like get my name out.
All the time. He says it like.
That's the thing. What would you say to yourself? Give me something that would be disrespectful in that realm. Give me something that would be.
Yeah, but hold on. Yeah, hold on. It's not. And so I just want us to see what happens. Go ahead, Kate.
Has the security guard ever done anything to make you feel like he doesn't take feedback well, like you've had other situations where somebody's tried to give him
Great question.
feedback and he's taken it poorly?
Yes.
Okay.
He has.
So you're
Great question.
Say, like, give me an example.
I don't know why these people are telling me that I have to be in the basement before school. The issue is, we call it the T, in the middle of the hallway on the first floor. That's where I'm going to be. And like, who are they to tell me, this?
And where were they in the level of command?
Somewhere,
To you?
somewhere to me, yeah.
Okay.
Do you think he understands what his job is supposed to be? Like, does he?
I think so.
Another great
He's
question.
coming to me like this is the guy that like I was like, this dude hates me. He was a 6th grade assistant principal last year. I had a security. I'm sorry. He was a 6th grade security guard last year.
Oh, I was gonna say.
I thought the same thing. I was like, that's quite.
I had an 8th grade security guard who was amazing, but he and I were so alike that like suddenly, the principal made this decision to switch them spots. And so his experience with his AP for the last 5 years is very different, than me. And so this is a guy that I was very like, golly, this dude hates me. I mean, my name is Dr. Sweeney. He would like intentionally come on the walkie-talkie and be like, Mr. Sweeney, you know what I mean? So I would be like, dude, this like, there's some stuff with this guy. But now we're like partners and sharing an office, and we've gained a relationship, and I just don't want to. I'm just nervous. I guess it's like uncomfortable.
Is it a new relationship? It's only like 3 months?
Well, it's probably like 5 months, you know, so the last couple months of last year and then the first 2 or 3 months of this year.
Do you think something happened that changed that you don't know about maybe?
Or did you have a conversation to establish what the relationship needs to be?
No, I think over time, it's just like with my teachers. Like last year it was my first year. I was telling somebody the other day that my biggest goal was to improve the culture and climate. And what I found was it just took like that year of consistency and me showing up as me in my power and putting, caring about them as like teachers, but also as humans. And then knowing that I'm not like going somewhere. I'm not going to be like just bolting out the door. And so I think it's the same with him. It's like him knowing that like I'm going to have your back, but now I've got to figure out how to establish these higher expectations.
I feel like this is a good opportunity to co-create a solution.
That's what I think, starting.
With the
Listen to you.
problem,
Get
let's
you
talk
there.
about the problem. Where does he see the problem? Where can he identify like facts? Like this is where people get in a fight, or this is where people are, I don't know, going to work all their life. And then have him like work through what's the solution.
It's great, and to, Damien, there's an opportunity here to do in 20 minutes what otherwise may take you 6 months, right? And one approach is to model these things. But what I'm hearing is, I don't want to talk about it, so I will be it, and eventually I will bring people along, people will come along. And, you all are coming from different places. If I asked you what kind of agreements do you have in place with this guy about where to be and when, what would you tell me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do want to talk about it, and that's why I suggested the role play. Like I do want to have this conversation with him. I'm just not sure how to start it.
Okay, cool. So
maybe it is just like we need to establish some agreement.
I'm so glad this is recorded, because I'm willing to bet that you've given this room 10 times the amount of context that you've given this guy. And what I mean by that is, if we reflect back the things you've shared with us, I deeply value you as a leader, as a security guard, your role in the school. I actually respect the relationship you build with students and their ability to be in relationship with you. I consider you a partner. This relationship matters to me. Terrified that I'm going to say something that is going to get us out of balance with each other, because this matters to me. And the last thing I ever want to do is put you in a position that it feels a certain way or things like that. And there's some things that we need to figure out to be even more on the same page. And there's probably some things about how you see your role and some things that I may not understand. And it feels to me like there's some things that we're just misaligned on. And I want us to get closer together. And I want to have a conversation from that place, right? And I don't want this to be about, I know you've struggled with other people telling you where to be and when to be, and I've thought about those conversations. I've been asking myself, how do I want to have this conversation, because these are my goals. Like, what would your goals be for that conversation?
Really just to be honest, like to create agreements around like where he will be during classes and during transitions.
Yeah.
Between classes.
How do you want him to walk out of that conversation feeling?
I want him to feel empowered, but at the same time, I want him to know the expectation and agree to it, so that we are on the same page. Because I think that that is a wobbly situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
But what do you want out of it? You want the respect of being called Dr. Sweeney?
Well, and that has changed. Now that we are partners, that has changed.
Yeah, I'm just saying, don't forget what you expect out of this agreement.
Yeah,
what you're-
that's going to get in the way. It's gonna get in the way here. It just is. It's not. It's
calling him Mr. Sweeney, and that is not his title, and that's
But it's not an ego, it's not an ego situation.
He was doing that, but now that we are.
And think about this. How many times with our spouses are we talking about one thing, and then before we know it, and this, and this, and this, and this, and the one thing that I wanted to create agreement on gets lost in all the other stuff. Suddenly, like, we're having a respect conversation about feeling disrespected. And I'm not saying it's a wrong conversation, but when we come into this with a very clear objective, it's not, like, what is our goal here? And I think it's, well, I want to do this and this and this and this. And I agree. I think you should definitely be calling you Dr. Sweeney. And that's something that should be addressed. And it's something that can that can take us away from walking out of here with, we have an agreement around where you're going to be and at this time, in this time. Right? And so my point with some of this is for us to be aware where it's like, yeah, but the disrespect thing, yeah, but there's this trigger that shows up, and it's almost, it can shadow what our goal is as leaders. It can shadow what we're trying to create. And that doesn't mean we don't address it, but I think there is a level of discernment about what is my goal and getting really clear with him.
I like that a lot because I think sometimes, I mean, and I can say even in myself that I've had circumstances with that same feeling. It's that, like, we're all still people. If somebody's reporting to me, they're still a person. And they might do something that I don't like in that moment. And now I've convoluted that story between, well, they don't do this and they called me something else. And now they're a flawed employee because I felt offended in that moment about something that they did, instead of saying, wait a minute, okay, I didn't care for that. Here's the thing we need to correct, and we'll move through these things, because ultimately my responsibility is good guidance, good leadership, ensuring that the role, and if I didn't like something, I think it's one thing, but sometimes I think those little sparks amplify the other stuff, like, oh, he's not in the hallway, and he called me? Oh, no, not this guy. You know, instead of, wait a minute.
Everything becomes bigger.
Yeah, everything starts to feel like more because I have feelings there. And so I think it is good to put them in their place and say, right now, the crux of what I need to deal with is the fact you're not where I need you to be for us to be in the most secure position as a campus. Yeah. And then we'll get to the little thing.
There's, I don't know what page it is. It's funny. This other, now this book is coming up in a whole different context. 48, page 48. And Jamie, this is just, you sparked this, but this is what I heard. Now, this speaks to systems, so I'm not even going to read the text, but the idea that complexity doesn't scale, right? Complexity gets us in the way of our ability to achieve what it is we're trying to achieve. And the moment this conversation goes from creating an agreement of where I'm going to be in the mornings between 7 and 7:40 to about what you say on the walkie-talkie and the way you greet me in the mornings and this and this and the 5th grade teacher or 8th grade teacher from last year and this year, like now I've got this image on the right, or on the left, I'm sorry, and it's all these things, right? So it's funny because even having a conversation about respect or trigger or what he calls you can actually get in the way of solving that issue too. And so there's something about clarity, right? Clarity is kind, right? Being clear with our messaging and our communication that really speaks to this. And so again, I don't disagree with any of our people shouldn't disrespect us and we shouldn't overlook respect. It should be, well, this is mine to deal with. But I want us to really see that respect is a story. Mm-hmm. Right? It is. And what one person sees as disrespect, another person will see as a joke. And then the other person over here is going to say, my God, like, why are you so uptight, right? The same thing that I see as a joke, somebody else is going to see as really insensitive.
I mean, just to demonstrate comfortable, you like how vulnerable you feel comfortable being, but like my instinct would be, you know, I need you. Like, mm-hmm. Here's how we make a great team together, because here's what you bring to this that I struggle with. That, you know, I see how you are with the students, and I wish I could be like that lighthearted or whatever, but
you're the person that I need in this role. You have so much power in this school, and your role is so important, and you're the person I need to do this, but here's what it needs to look like.
Yeah.
Like that a lot.
Did you say you didn't have a good relationship with his last?
No, he did.
Baby.
He did.
Okay.
This woman named,
Have you ever asked her?
no, he was like,
Advice?
so, have I asked her?
Like if you're,
Yeah.
if they had a good relationship and you thought she could tell him where to go, like all those things, it could, you tried this first, but if it doesn't work, it could be worth saying, I respect this relationship that you had with him. I want to set up that, we're still new in this relationship. Well, how did you win here? Or, because I think there's sometimes like as people move between teams, we know like with this person, we can just be like so straight with our feedback, and with this person, we have to wrap it in a bubble.
Yeah.
But we know as people move, and so if someone comes from my team to April's team, she might say, what wins with giving Lauren feedback? And I would say, oh, she's a bubble person. But somebody else might be not a bubble, so it could be a plan B.
Yeah, the sixth grade AP is like this 4'8" little woman from New York City. Who, she, so I get her comfortable with like somebody coming back with like some witty, like, rude comment or whatever. And she will like get right in that dude's face and be like,
Suffers no
and so, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like their relationship is a little bit different.
Yeah, or you can even say, I know you had a good relationship with her. I want to make sure we have a good relationship too. How, what worked with her, here's what doesn't work with me. I don't know, it just could be a way of honoring the success he had. Because he might feel, like I know you feel like, oh, this other person I really liked got taken away from me and now I have this guy and it's hard. He might be feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's really just acknowledging that it's a new relationship.
There's a lot of cool approaches. Like this is great, and it speaks to, I think, one of y'all over here, I think, Emily, you mentioned like this idea of co-creating something. That's what, I would be curious to know, you have a very clear idea of the culture you want to create. Have we enrolled him in that? Have we taken the time to really enroll him in creating the culture and having a conversation about what he sees? Like, how can you help? Like, what is your role in this? Is he on board with that, or does he think you're like? There are just all these things. And I want to 100% respect. You can talk about putting people on the spot. 100% respect your request for a role play. And I'm going to invite Kate to do that with you. and I think I have a feeling that once you're in the conversation, you're going to naturally be in the conversation. You ask for Kate.
He's the security.
He's going to be the security card. You're going to be the security guard. Kate's going to be the leader. And the part of this I want to play with, it sounds like the challenge for you, the most challenging thing is, how do I even start this conversation? Like once I'm in the conversation and we have a context and a place to come from, I think you're just going to be you. Like, does that feel honest? Like he can, but it's approaching it. It's getting into the conversation that feels difficult and feels hard. And so we keep kicking it down the road until now it becomes a disciplinary conversation or a not meeting standards conversation, and it's going to be way harder then.
It's the initiation, but it's also when he says, dude, fix your face.
Yep.
And so that's what.
Yeah, without bringing the joke. So you get to be the security guard. Yeah. You get to be the security guard, and Kate, are you up for this, to play with this a bit?
It's gonna feel good.
Yes. Kate's the leader and has asked for a restroom break. So Kate, my request here is. So Dr. Sweeney, my request here is that we even start a little further upstream, and I don't want to start from a place of we're in the conversation, there's the beginning of the conversation. I would even start from it's a normal day. How does he even broach the idea of wanting to have a conversation? And kind of start there, and then from there we can move into the conversation.
You want to set that up?
That's
He's just over here telling kids to fix his face.
Yes.
She has no idea this is coming.
So you're saying like where I would find him?
Yeah.
Coach. Hey, Coach Anthony, how's it going today? Good.
Hey, I'm gonna need some of that fix your face energy, Coach.
He would respond something crazy. I don't know.
So be Coach Anthony.
Let your freak flag fly.
I'm straight. You?
You go which you speak.
Oh, this is great. This is great.
Now that you're a doctor, you're speaking.
Hey, so appreciate you being down here in the Doves unit. Wondering if we could have a little chat about your time in different places within the facility.
You want to do what?
I love that you're down here chatting with these students. I think it's very important, and I really appreciate you being down here a lot. And but I'd like to see if we can maybe have you spend some same amount of time and with some other areas of the facility as well as down here with these important students.
I mean, I guess.
Okay, great. Where do you think might be a good place for you to spend some additional time?
I'm always at my table.
Where's your table?
Right in the hallway. I'm right where I need to be all the time.
Okay. So why do you like to spend time at your table?
Well, that's where you want me, right?
I actually have never said I wanted you at your table.
Okay. All right.
Where do you think would be some good places for you to spend some time here? Have you noticed like there's some issues at any places within the schools where kids kind of congregate instead of being where they're supposed to be?
Well, I do get mad when there are restroom breaks and kids are like hitting lockers and they know what classes are going on, so I probably need to be out with them a little bit.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. Any other places?
Down with the Ravens, that's kind of our hot spot where kids are kind of acting a fool.
Okay. What do you do when the kids are acting a fool?
I mean, I try and take them out, as you know, I try and take them out, I try and bring them to Ms. Clark's office, I try and sit with them and figure out what's going on and how we can help them or whatever.
Yeah. Do you have are there any kids right now that are particularly vulnerable to some issues that you're?
I mean, we got like 10 that I'm dealing with every single day.
Okay. What about having rotating throughout the campus a little bit broader and so people kind of see you in all levels, because you're such a positive force here that I think you tend to, I've noticed, and I think it's great that you're in the Ravens and the Doves, and but what about like letting some of the other people kind of interact with you and seeing you throughout the building?
Yeah, I guess I could do that.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
That's super helpful. And so I think that's I think that's great, and you can keep going, or I don't.
He didn't give me a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would give. I mean, yeah.
Right, so I think this is real. I think this is fascinating because look, we're all different leaders, right? Like even this morning, the first hour has shown how differently we approach things. So I love how curious you were in that. There's real power in just asking questions. And what was cool is instead of just telling him what you want or what he should do, you let him discover some opportunities. You let him discover and think about, well, no, there are some needs that aren't being met.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
You know, and instead of just, this is what I think, right? There's very little of this is what I think. And of course you can keep going and add your suggestions on top of it. But this curious, questions are so disarming. Like I actually watched you settle in to some questions and solutions as you kept asking questions to kind of like, oh, well, there's this, there are some, these 10 kids. And suddenly y'all were just in a conversation. So that was really powerful. All right, I want to put Tiffany on the spot.
Oh my gosh.
You said we're so nice, so I'm going to have Tiffany switch with Kate. You said, we're so nice and you would just do this. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want us walking out of here believing there is one right way to do this stuff.
Yes, I would.
So wait, I have to be mean.
You have to be, no, you just get to handle it however you'd handle it. And you said, I see some things now, so it doesn't have to be, like, don't feel like you're playing a role to be mean Tiffany or this Tiffany, just really what comes up for you. Where would you like this conversation to take place?
I think in our office.
Okay, so it's not in the hallway. Is he already in the office, or do you?
Yeah, like probably, making food or something.
Okay, cool. So that gives you a setting of you're coming into the office. There's no conversation planned. It's not on the schedule for 1 o'clock, but.
Okay. And I don't know, like, your school dynamics, but I heard, like, ravens and what?
So,
Doves.
So our doves are students with multiple disabilities.
Okay.
Our ravens are like our students that general comprehensive level, and then we've got our hawks, which is like our Montessori program.
Okay, doves, ravens, hawks, okay. Birds. We're all birds.
We're the world.
Let's clap. What was his name, Coach?
Anthony.
Anthony, okay, I remember. All right. So we're like, you said a shared office, does that mean you like, are like desks staring at each other, or like?
No, like he just,
Okay.
yeah, my office, and he just kind of has a table from there. He's rooming it. So.
Okay, got it. Just trying to set context, so we're in our shared space. And I'm gonna say it's morning.
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, Coach Anthony. How are you today?
I'm straight, you?
Yeah, straight too.
Oh, that's so good.
I don't know what your day looks like today, but I would really love some time to connect and talk about a few things that have been on my mind. Connect.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'd like to have some time in the day, in our schedule to talk about some stuff that I know has been on my mind, and I would really love to know what has also been on your mind, on some of the routes and routines that you're doing, or anything I can do.
I'm not going to put this off. What do we want? What do you want?
You have time right now? Okay, I got time right now too, so let's go in and sit down.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, let me grab my coffee. You got your coffee? Let's do some. This seems fair, because I want to finish my caffeine too. Did you have a good morning at Browns this morning, Coach Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like anything else, any other day.
Yeah. Describe to me like what your day is. I know we're coming in and doing different things, and just walk me through your morning. How you interacted with the kids in the school today.
Yeah. I mean, I went down to the basement, even though I didn't want to, because, I don't feel like I need to be there. But I went down there, I talked to some of the doves, I talked to some of the teachers, and then I came back here.
Yeah. How long did you spend in the basement?
30 minutes.
Okay. But why do you feel like you don't need to be there?
Because I'm the 8th grade security guard. Like, nothing's really going on down there. I feel like I need to kind of direct traffic where most of the kids in the school are going to be, which is what I'm in 8th grade for.
That's fair, and you're assigned to 8th graders, but as we talked about, there is some time that needs to be spent in the basement.
Yep.
Do you feel like the 30 minutes was the right amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, that's my morning duty. So
Okay, so that is the right amount of time.
Yeah.
And then after you went to the basement, you headed upstairs to interact with kids.
Yeah.
And I know the kids really like when you interact with them. There's a lot of value to the school for you having those relationships with the kids. Yeah, so when you're on the second floor, first floor?
Yeah.
I know the school really well. I should have known that, that's my fault. So when you're on take ownership for not knowing what floor we're on. So when you're on the first floor, do you feel like you get to maximize time with your kids, or are you feeling compressed?
I mean, I don't really know what you mean by that, but I did my job, and I feel like I'm doing it well.
I guess what I mean
and
by
I got
that.
a great relationship with the kids. And
Yeah. What I mean by that is if you're spending 30 minutes in the basement, do you feel like you're getting enough time interacting with the kids? Because what I'm trying to do here is see if there's another way you can interact with the kids throughout the day but still get that time in the basement. Because I from my point of view, and what I kind of have to make sure happens at this school is I think that 30 minutes is really important in the basement. But I want you to get the value out of what, being with the kids and being where you think you need to be too. So how can we agree to a schedule that works for both of us?
I mean, I think I'm doing what I need to do. I'm stopping problems when I'm here. There aren't as many issues, and I am intentional about care about the kids, so I do that. And, you know, we're good.
Yeah, that would be really fun. I have to care a little bit about what the teachers think, so. So here's what, would you be willing to, for like the next 2 weeks, spend the 30 minutes, which I do sense that that's not something you really enjoy doing. And then, and I don't have reference of time here, so it's not going so great here, but, and then spend, you tell me, X amount of time doing the rest of that in the morning, and then maybe we could even re-loop and finish like some time in the basement. Because that's, I think I'm being pretty clear here that that's important, that we need to
I
make sure
think
that's
one of the
covered.
issues that I have, I'm stepping out of our role play, but,
Okay.
is that he like dives into these rooms, you know, like
Rooms,
during classes. So he'll be with this counselor, he'll go upstairs and visit with this other security guard or this other person. So that's what I'm trying to mitigate. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
that gives me more sense, because I can look at it. So, okay, so it's not that we're spending time in the hallway, it's that we're spending time in these other rooms. And I want him to spend time in the hallway.
Yes.
Can we reverse that?
He's distracted,
He's distracted. Okay, so I'm still gonna go back, so back into role play, into schedule. Can we create for like, just something we can stick to for 2 weeks and see how it works? And it's time in the basement, time in the hallways. And then we can see where there's time maybe left over, interact with maybe others that help you do your job. It's important to get.
Are you trying to say that I'm like not doing good at my job? Like, what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say I want you in certain spots, but I can sense that you want to be somewhere else. So how can we agree to be where we need to be?
Just say what you want to say.
I actually do think that I need you to be in certain spots, and I'm trying to give you an opportunity to paint that picture for me. What could that look like? Look, I could easily, I want this to be a good relationship, and we work well together, but we have different goals to meet. So I want to help you meet your goals, but I need you to help me meet my goals.
I don't know. I'll do whatever you say, boss.
Oh, I don't want to feel like that. That's why I'm asking you what would work.
I think we can cut.
Cool.
Good job.
I thought you stood, I mean, Damien said, help me stand in my power. I thought you stood in your power without kind of getting sucked into any of the other stuff. Like you can see how easily it'd be to get taken out of and suddenly into this but you stood without, you never lost your affinity for him, your respect for him, or got kind of pulled into some of his stuff.
Does he actually like doing his job? Because the vibe I'm getting is like he just wants to slack off. Or like, does he actually like being out there with the kids?
I think he likes laughing. And,
And the new.
So he's there for good times.
And the new counselor.
yeah. I think he is there to do his job and, you know,
So he's in high school.
yes. Yeah.
Good.
How many years has he been doing this?
I think since maybe 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7 years or so.
Has the bar been low for him historically, do you think, about
Yes.
what is expected of him? So
So if you can think about like a middle school, like your sixth graders are like these tiny people that are really, really scared. And they're like literally tiny compared to our eighth graders who feel like they're like the big man on campus. And, you know, they're the king of the crop and all of this. So he's been with these little people, like and he's loud. So if he yells, like they're like about to cry. You know, versus like an eighth grader, like, oh,
They can handle the.
Yeah.
Is he intimidated by chance?
no.
Is he a big guy?
No, but he's
Big energy.
Yeah, so like even that.
And did the former principal that he was working with before in New York, did she actually have expectations of him to roam the buildings, or did she just kind of let him do whatever?
she would say things like, you know, there's a really cute teacher downstairs, and I had to have a conversation with him, like just being in her classroom, like with the lights off, and not that we're doing it, you know, but like having a conversation about like professionalism and like you can't just do these things, you know.
Well, how was he receptive to that?
I'm not sure.
It's a different dynamic though, I think, with a woman leader and a man versus like your two men. I think there is also that inherent, like you're challenging me, I'm gonna challenge back in a way that is different. You have to,
It's like, get David in
listen
there.
to the way she would have positioned this, because we talked about it a little bit, and it was I thought it was a really,
Tiffany and April switch.
Hey, time out of the seat.
it was very good.
I love it. And look, I think this is great for all of us to say, like, what are some of the things we've been talking about and the ideas, and to see the difference in leadership and management styles, to see the conversations are different. Again, this is not about right or wrong. This is about building our toolbox, building our approach, seeing opportunities. And I think the one thing we typically never get to do is what's happening right now is be an unemotional and emotionally detached observer. You may not feel emotionally detached, but an emotionally detached observer of how conversations can unfold, right?
Does he like treats? Start off hand him a cookie?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
But-
We gotta keep the kids out of the hallways. Those Montessori, the hawks, they like to explore. You know? We gotta keep the kids out of the hallways.
I can feel though, like between when you interacted with Damien as Coach Anthony interacting with Kate versus interacting with me, like you're moving into the Coach Anthony role. Like,
Yeah.
I did. I was like, why are you worried? Kate got a really nice version. Do that version.
Kate got the pre-coffee version.
One spicy Anthony.
Yeah. I grabbed my coffee.
All right, Miss April, let's do it.
Please start being sassy. That's it.
Scene?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, can I get your opinion on something later?
What's up?
Okay. I have been thinking, and everything in the news, another school shooting. I am trying to come up with a new system. It's my second year here. I've been observing. My first year, I observed. You're on the floors. I want your opinion. I want to know, you're on a new floor too. You're on the 6th grade, so you're with the babies. These kids are scared. You bring joy to this place. So I want your opinion because I want to establish a new system. I don't have it right yet because I don't have everyone's opinions. How can, one, we make this safe, this place will safer for the kids, especially for the babies? Where are your favorite places to be?
The gym. I guess I like to be, up in Anderson's office or Miss Clark's office or,
Why?
I feel like I can do my best work one-on-one.
Okay. Where do you think the kids feel the safest?
Probably in the classroom,
Where do you think they don't feel the safest?
probably in the hallway or the bathroom.
Yeah. So, and that's what I feel like I feel too, but I didn't know if that was a fact. So, my thought is, you bring so much joy and life. How can we bring that to those spaces? So if you could help me kind of create, I don't know, maybe a new rotation, a new something, so that we use what you're really good at in the place that the kids need it. So could you, come back to me, think about it? Because you're really good in that space where you are. The kids know where to come to you, but they're not coming to you when they need it. So I want you to be able to catch it. Imagine if you were in the bathroom and they needed you in the bathroom, or maybe they would stand a little straighter when you had to be a little stricter somewhere else. It's like, I need you to do what you do best when they don't expect you to be there. That's all I got. It's very good.
Yeah, I like that. Man, that was good.
I really like the safety aspect.
Well, it's a security guard. And I still doesn't feel like he has
Yeah. How did, so that landed for you? What was it about? What was it about that you said that was good? What was it about that approach that resonated?
I really like empowering people. I don't love the discomfort of I don't want to make people feel like I'm questioning them all the time, and I think that arms them. They begin to feel defensive. People get defensive when you question them, and that felt very much like you were April respected me, appreciated me, and like actually was really open to my ideas and my expertise versus like just telling me like this is the problem and this has to be fixed.
It also wasn't April's like want, it was a common need.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems, I mean, whether, you know, there's the things this guy likes, and there are things that he would hate to see happen. He obviously cares for the kids. I love that you tapped into that. 3 very different approaches, the same thing. Right? Again, I love the questioning aspect. I love the more casual approach, which probably feels more like you versus a let's sit down and have a conversation, which I set up here. You know, there was the, you know, I am going to, like, I'm not going to let you shake me off of my stand. Like, there are some things I need to have. And if you're going to ask me a direct question, I'm going to give you a direct answer. So all of these things, and there's no one answer. It's going to be a mixture of those things. You know, I do want to take us back to the first weekend when we talked about creating agreements. Right? Because the reality is, if we really strip all this down, there's a disappointment that you have. You remember I told you I love disappointments. Because if there's a disappointment, we can create an agreement. There's a disappointment that exists. Right? And truth be told, he may know, but he doesn't really know or isn't all that interested in that disappointment. Right? But I have a disappointment that my security guard is not in the places where, I love how you frame this, where the kids feel probably the least safe, right? Or in the places where the chances of something detrimental or negative happening are the highest. That's a disappointment. And can I be disappointed in just that, right? It's a disappointment. I don't have to be angry. I don't have to, if we are angry or frustrated, that's cool too, but can we just be that? Can we just notice it? When we're disappointed, that means we can make a request. So, okay, cool. I see my disappointment. What is the request I have? You have a very clear request. Very clear. Right? Your request is that during this time and this time, or on breaks or whatever it may be, that we spend more time where the students are. Right? Not the one-on-one space, but where the students are. And so you know your objective. If I said, cool, Damien, what is the agreement you want to walk out of here with? What would that be?
I think let the counselor be the counselor with the kids. If you need to have a one-on-one conversation, do it at your table in the hallway. There are other, the hallway should be clear anyway. But I need your presence there consistently so that when there are kids coming out of rooms and they're trying to be loud or they're trying to be playful or whatever, like you're there to get them where they need to be.
Yeah, you're in a place where you've got eyes on it. Right? I mean, all the things all the things that have happened in the news, and those are a great reference. You go to, well, somebody was somewhere that didn't have eyes on it until some adverse outcome happened, right? And we have staffed this place in between the counselors and the principals and security guard. We want to have eyes in as many places as we can on as many students as we can. And what's cool about what you just said, Damien, is you're not saying don't have the one-on-one conversations you're having with students. That's important.
I like what you said too, because it's almost like, let me be the counselor, you do the security. It's almost like, and I have your back when you need to tag me in.
Yep.
So it's like, I need you to be that, and then I've got you when it escalates for everything too. So it's like he has your backs, and it's like kind of the same like what that is for me.
Well, and if he wants to interact with, it seems like faculty and staff, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be where it graduates, not the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and I don't know what you do in your workplace, but I'm sure there's times that there's team building or things that faculty and staff, like, maybe you could add, like, that is when you can, hang out with your coworkers versus the kids. Because that seems to be important to him, is he wants to have these conversations with different teachers and stuff. So where is the space to do that?
Yeah, making
It's not when he's doing it, but there might be space to do that somewhere.
Yeah, and as we were doing this, I was also thinking like, I'm going to have a side conversation with like the counselor. Hey, I need your help. Like this,
He's like, oh, I gotta make a phone call.
Yeah.
Or just
Leave me alone.
yeah. Nancy.
So this applies to like every business setting, right?
I was hoping, I really didn't want.
No, it does.
It's so real.
It does, right, because it takes a team to do whatever the job, the career, the industry is. And I spent a couple of years working in a middle school at Camper in the front office, so I've got like maybe an inside perspective to this. It takes a freaking team.
Yeah, that's a great
for
call.
that place to be operating safely and effectively before the kids even get in from it's like 6:30 to like 3:30 in the afternoon, right? And every person has to do their job, and just reflecting on my time in the front office, and we're using the walkies, and we have the security guards and the SROs and all that stuff. If they weren't doing the job that they were supposed to be doing, effed up everything. It's trying to say you are doing the job that you do. You see things that I don't see roaming the halls or in my office. So there is some aspect of empowering the coach to take his knowledge and experience to do its best. But as I would have approached it is, you have a role to play in this, and this is where I need you to be and to be the expert in this area, because we're doing this as a team, and if something doesn't happen below you, you're reporting up as well. Everything's just all connected, so.
Nancy, it's brilliant. It goes back to kind of the systems idea, and where do systems fail? Hey, if something did happen, heaven forbid, a school shooting or a fight, or somebody gets really hurt, or somebody ends up in a situation we don't want them to be in, where is that most likely to happen? Right, at the weakest point, right? And yeah, and the weakest point is if any of us aren't doing what is ours to do, that becomes a weak point, and the whole system can begin to crumble.
You brought up a good point about having a conversation with the counselor. You mentioned that he hung out in the counselor's office as well as upstairs with the security and other security guard.
Yeah, security guard and another.
So if those people are also having long conversations with him, knowing that they should probably be out in the hallways too, if it's between times or doing some other work, or if they're keeping him when they know he should be looking out for the kids and being in other places, and they kind of have a part in this as well. So
Remember when I still told you all that there was like one AP that people were really drawn to, and a lot of people go to his office.
Yeah.
It sounds like he doesn't have a lot of things to do on most days. If there's not an issue, he's got a lot of time that feels like I'm in an empty hallway, there's nobody walking around, there's not a lot. So I'm finding things to fill my time so my day goes faster. When we talk about systems, are there ways to ensure that he's at places at times to be, so that there is some sense of obligation, just like there's checkpoints for you, you're documenting that you scanned this point at this time and this time, and so that
Little initials in the public restrooms.
yeah, you've got some mechanism to say, I've done the things, and you've got some accountability to say, yeah, see, you were on task. Oh, I see you touched all the things, because now it's just like freestyle. And there's nobody out in the hall, I'm gonna go talk to such and such.
There's no outside accountability. Like we were talking about yesterday, there's no external accountability.
Yeah, and then it gives him some orient to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, does he know his expectations?
Yeah.
Like, does he report to you, number one? Yes. So, do y'all have any type of evaluation, like, in the year, like, okay, so at that point, do you share those types of things? Like, this is what's expected, this is in the job description, you're not meeting these things?
No, I mean, I've only done one, and it was at the end of year one, so it was very much like a conversation of appreciation for him stepping into the role that he did not sign up for towards the end of the year.
I liked how April brought up the fact that, she's been thinking about like the school shootings and things that need to change. It sounds like if you've got a counselor that is occupying some of his time, and she probably has other things she should be doing, and you've got an AP that should probably have other things to do, and it might be time for, I don't know how often you do this, but I think you might need a crisis drill. And hey, this is where you all need to be at these times of the day, because it's not just that security guard. It sounds like you've got some other people that maybe aren't in their right spots either. So might be, hey, we need to have a crisis drill and really be thinking about where we need to be when we're between classes, where we need to be classes so we can make this school as safe as possible and get them all involved. And so it's not just on him.
Yeah. Where did it break down?
And it's 6 times later, if he's still not doing it, then you're like, then it actually makes total sense for you to be like, why are you in this room right now?
We have this discussion.
Yeah. And you agreed, right? We have an agreement. I'm willing to bet that if I had a one-on-one conversation with you and a one-on-one conversation with him about his roles, about his responsibilities, about what's important and what's not, about where he should be and when, they would sound a lot different. And that's not making either of you wrong, right? It's just what occurs to him or what makes sense to him or what is doing my job, right? There's a lack of clarity. And sometimes because we want people to feel appreciated, right? The acknowledgement piece is really important and we want people to feel good and things like that. We avoid sitting down. You talk about the end of last year. I would start if I was going on my 6th year with this security guard, I would start at the beginning of the year and saying, hey, these were the agreements we had last year. What are our agreements? Why are we here? And what are our agreements we have about how we're going to approach this year, right? Hey, going back to last year, do things need to change? Do things need to be updated? Do we need to add something? Do we need to take something out? Do we need to tweak it? But I want, and this is why when I tell you all these expectations, right, are toxic. He has expectations of leadership that, hey, I'm showing up every day. I'm doing my job. Like, let me be. I'm around, right? What else do you want? I'm around. Y'all said be in the basement. I'm in the basement for half an hour. I'm around. And then you have expectations, right? And these expectations are just ships passing in the night. And so kind of avoiding that just straight conversation like, hey, what are the agreements we want to make to achieve this shared objective, kind of move us. So thank you. Several people came up to me during the break that Kate so powerfully created. You're a powerful creator. And said, Brittany said it, Jamie mentioned it, like I have a situation just like this.
Good. I was hoping that was a server you all.
So it was helpful. Cool. All right. I think this ties back to where I wanted to go today. And I want to share with you what I'm calling I'm not calling them. They're called the 12 disciplines, right? The 12 disciplines for leadership excellence. And it's not in the book anywhere, so this is, it's not in the book. What'd you say? So this is different. You all are actually the first people in the entire world to receive what I'm about to share because it's about a week old. And this comes from an ontological place, right? And when we talk about ontology, right, the definition, high-level definition, ontology is about everything we've been talking about. For 6 months, we've been talking about ontology. I just don't think we've ever used those words. It's the place that I coach from and the place that I come from, right? Ontology is about who you are being as a leader, right? The presence and way of showing up that shapes everything you do. And so when I was in London last week, I met a guy that I'd never met before, and his name was Kai, and Kai early on day one went up and was being coached by Kush, and he received, like they just had this big back and forth that went on for about an hour. And it's funny because he kept checking in like you were doing, Damien, and he kept saying, hey, I don't want to take up more space, and everybody's like, no, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it was interesting watching Kai because he was being coached, and I didn't really know him, but he was just kind of sitting with stuff, and he was almost probing. It was almost like he was interviewing Kush. And he sat back, and he came the next day after this whole exchange. It was really valuable for everybody in the room, and said, he's big into somatics. He's big into what's going on in his body. And he said, I could feel just something there, and I didn't want to rush it. I didn't want to be with it. But I sat last night, and these insights started coming to me through our conversation, right? These things that, Kush, you've talked about, things that you all actually saw. And he said, and what's come out of this is these kind of 8 disciplines showed up for me that I could see present in our conversation. And present in the way, Kush, you create what you create. And I could see that these disciplines would be really powerful for me as a coach. They'd be really powerful for me as a husband. They'd be really powerful for me as a father if I could come from this place. And so we've talked about this idea of where we're coming from, right? We can do the same things. We could have the same conversation with Coach Anthony, but where we're coming from matters. If I'm coming from, you're disrespecting me and you shouldn't be, it's going to be, you could say the exact same thing, but it's going to be a very different felt experience than if you're coming from cooperation and collaboration and curiosity, right? I could really hear the curiosity in some of what we saw up here. That's a place to come from. That's a place to come from. I can come from positional authority. I can come from curiosity. I can come from disrespect. I can come from any of these things. I could come from, I'm over you or more important than you or better than you or above you. We can come from colleagues. We can come from, I'm not as powerful as you. That's also a place to come from. And Damien, that's kind of what I heard is he's got this big personality and I can kind of feel myself shrinking in the moment. I think I shared a story with you guys on day one about me being in rooms with certain people, kind of like, what? I just said I'm an executive coach. Like, what is that? Like, why did I shrink in that moment? That was so interesting. Right? So there's something about where I was coming from in that moment that impacted everything that happened afterwards. And so I want to share. So Kai's 8 became 12. And as he was sharing them, I said, Kai, man, this is good. It wraps up so much of what this room has been talking about and pulls a lot of it in. And I said, this is something I would love to share with the folks in the room. And so that's what we're going to do today. Because this, I think, is a great way on our last day to kind of recap and revisit and step into this conversation from a place of not what should you do in this situation, but where's the place we're coming from as leaders? There's a default place we come from, and it's so funny because if we really slowed it all down, we got a sprinkle of the way Dad used to talk to us in there, and we add a little bit of how Mom used to talk to us, and add a little bit of the rejection from that girl or that guy, and add, David, you talked yesterday about like, here's some pieces of Catholic guilt for you. Let's go on and throw that in there. We've already talked about some of the cultural differences, right? So the stuff that shows up in our cultures, how we grew up. We've got some people that grew up. We were talking yesterday when April's kids were here at the end of the day about how some of us grew up as single parent, or not single parents, but single only children, right? So we didn't have brothers and sisters. And then we had people that grew up with 4 or 5 brothers and sisters. Right? All of these dynamics come into play, and there's a default place that we come from. And my guess, if you're anything like most people in the world, if you're anything like me, it's so easy to be in a situation and not think about where you're coming from. It's just, we just show up and it's a default place to come from. And so I want us to use today to get more intentional if we're going to be powerful leaders, to explore where the places we're coming from are and come from that place, right? And add a level of intentionality. Like, what if we really took the time, like you're doing, Damien, you have modeled this so beautifully today. You could have, hey, I want to have this conversation with this guy, but I want to think about where I'm coming from. I want to think about how I want to go into this conversation. You even said, I want to think about what it may look like for me to stand in my power. That's a place to come from, right? I want this guy to really like me is a place to come from. I want this guy to think I'm cool, and I use language that he thinks is cool is a place to come from. Like all of these things. So we have these default places to come from, but I want to bring Damien level intentionality. What if we brought that kind of intentionality and that kind of preparation to all of our conversations? Now, I know our minds are going, I ain't got time for that. So I can acknowledge that. But what if we could bring a new level of intention and intentionality? And what if I told you that by the end of the day, we could access these places to come from in 30 seconds that could impact everything else that happens over the next hour, or the next 2 hours, or the next day, week, month, or year. So that's what I want to play with. It's 10:50. Let's take another break, and how about we come back right at 11? So Kai Jordan calls this the 12 disciplines of leadership excellence, right? And Alicia just said, so this guy just took what you all were doing on day one and like came up with these. And he did. He came back with them the next day, and then there were 8, and then he's refined them, and they grew. And he lives in Spain with his wife. A lot of the coaching that they do is with couples. They'll have couples flying from all over the world, husbands, wives, wives, to spend time with him and his wife to grow their relationship. And he also started working with leaders because he saw that all the stuff we talk about in relationships with couples applies to who we're being as leaders. And so now he's growing his leadership practice. And I'm really excited to spend the next 6 months with him. I got a lot from him. I think I mentioned that to some of you guys that we did this cacao ceremony when we were over there. He's the guy that did it. And he's the guy that brought the cacao that I mean, you want to talk about funny. He went to Felipe, who's the assistant, so he's my Jacob Franco. She said, all right, so we're going to do this cacao ceremony. Here's what I need from the hotel. I need a blender. I need cutting boards, I need knives, I need honey, like all these things. And Felipe was like, what? And the Rubens, the service there is amazing. He got all those things, and it was great. But he's who I've been going back and forth with to bring this to you guys. We go to the next slide. And so again, I just want to look at this idea of ontology, and specifically around leadership, right? It's the study of being. It is the practice, and Kai really calls this a practice. He calls these practices. It's the practice of examining and shaping who we are being as leaders. So again, the skills in leadership is really important. The strategies are really important. We talked yesterday a lot about action. Those things are really important. But what is that stuff built on, right? It's built on who we're being. It's why I come from that place. Right? From what way of being do I lead? So it's the foundation that shapes every choice, every conversation, every result. It invites us to notice how our presence, our mindset, and our way of showing up create the context in which leadership happens. And when we shift our being, the doing naturally transforms. And so I asked Kai, I said, you have been putting these together. I literally, the first time I wanted to bring these to you, I took a picture of his notebook, like his handwritten, scribbled notes. And I said, you've been playing with these, but I would love for the room to get a sense. I'd love to create context for what we're going to explore today and for you to bring us into that. So I asked him to share a bit of himself and the way he thinks about that with us. And that's what we'll do here. So this is about 12 minutes, and he will kind of walk us into the way he sees it, the way he experiences it, and then we'll talk more about it on the other side of this video.
Hello, leaders. I am really happy to be with you and excited to share the 12 disciplines of leadership excellence. This has been something that culminates my life's work. And it gives me an access point, and I hope that it gives you an access point to access the greatest state of being, your highest state of excellence as it applies to leadership that you could be. There is a couple things that will make you get more out of this document. And if you read the first page, which I'm going to read through with you, I'll speak into them a little bit more. So I'll start by reading the first page, which is how to get the most out of this resource. These 12 disciplines are a way to elevate your being to the highest level of service and leadership excellence in every area of your life. They're a place to come from, a place to stand. They are not a goal, not something to do, but rather a way of enhancing who you're being. When you think about these, they're not somewhere that you're trying to get. They're a place that you're embodying within yourself. All of you have already experienced these states of being in your life. For example, we think about be love. How I access that state is I think about the moment that my son was born. And I was there in the house, gave birth in our home in Bali. And he came out super long. It was the first thing I noticed. Wow, it's super long. And he had this kind of bluish color, and there was a smell of caramel in the room. And it was so visceral, this experience. And then my wife handed him to me for the first time. And I just remember thinking, I would give my life for this child. And that was the first time I ever met him. And that's the imagery. And that's the access point, or what I refer to as an ontological access point, which is an access point to a certain state of being, an embodied state of being. In that moment, I think that was the most I've ever experienced being love. It was a love that I've never, ever experienced anything quite like since. But it's my access point when I want to show up and be that. And I can access that and be that for anyone who's sitting in front of me. And that's how I show up before each of my sessions. I go through my list of the 12 disciplines of leadership excellence. You can also do this before an important meeting. You can do this before a phone call. You can do this before an email. And you access each one of those states so that you're coming from the highest state of being you can. in terms of leadership excellence. So I'll continue. These disciplines are practices. They are a mountain without a top. There's infinite depth and breadth of mastery for each of these disciplines that you could explore them for an entire lifetime and still never experience anything, everything there is to explore. All of my life I've been practicing. Since I was 3 years old, my parents put me into classical music, classical piano. I would practice every single day. After I graduated from high school, I was no longer practicing for festivals or competitions, but I started playing music, writing music. Shortly after, in about 2012, I had finished my album, and I had this spontaneous, almost midlife crisis at the age of 23, where I realized the person who had created that album was not who I really am. From that moment, I stopped doing all of those things that I was doing, and I moved into 2+ hours of meditation a day. In the peak of my practice, I was doing upwards of 5 hours of yogic practices every day. My commitment to my daily practice is what is responsible for the level of mastery that I have in various aspects of my life. And when I think about mastery, I think about it's the preparation you've put in to be who you are in the moment that someone meets with you. And that preparation is what creates the possibilities. So when I say this is a practice, I'm showing up every single day in every single conversation, whether it's with my wife, whether it's with my son or my 2 stepsons, whether it's with a client, whether it's with a stranger on the street, I'm showing up and I'm practicing being the highest state of love that I can be, being the best listening I can be, being the most powerful acknowledger that I can be. And that is my way of continually elevating my state of being and being a mountain without a top. So you can practice these during every conversation with anyone you're leading. In each of these disciplines, there's a declaration of being. For example, be love. The declaration is, I am love. Speaking that is a way to create that context for yourself. It's a creative expression. It's something that you're using called generative language. Generative language creates a possibility. Descriptive language describes what's there in front of you. Generative language creates what's there next. So when you generate I am love, you're actually stepping into, you're using I am love as a place to come from, as a place to stand. So this way of accessing these ontological states is through using those declarations. There's another way that you can access all of these 12 disciplines of leadership excellence, and I call these ontological access points. One ontological access point for me is the image of my son being born and me holding him. I can access it through the smell, I can access it through the vision of the imagery, I can access it through the sound of his first cry, I can access it through the feeling of devotion and love. But there's also other aspects that maybe you haven't got a very distinct moment that you remember, but there's other ontological access points that give you what I refer to as the ontological vantage point. An ontological vantage point is the viewpoint of the embodied state of being. The embodied state of being, 10 out of 10 listening. Looking from that vantage point, it's listening as if your life depends on it. One of the other ones I use is listening as if you're sitting with your parent and it's the last conversation you'll ever have with them. That access point gives you a way to call forward or to call yourself into this ontological discipline. And again, I'm constantly practicing this. Sometimes I'll slip out of the 10 out of 10 listening and I'll use one of those access points or the I am listening as if my life depended on it to call myself back in to continue practicing. So Ontological access points are what someone would see if they were embodying this state. Any phrase in the following resource can be an access point to one or all of the disciplines. And I use the example, listen as if your life depends on it. So find which works best for you to practice, whether it's the access points or the declarations or both. One thing I like to do now is I have this in front of my computer. So when I'm looking forward and working with a client right before, I'll go through point form. I'll go through all the declarations. I am love. I am gracious humility. I am that I'm listening as if my life depends on it. And I can go through that in 30 to 50 seconds. So that's a way that I can call myself into the 12 disciplines of leadership excellence, or that state of leadership excellence. And sometimes I'll get a moment where I'm listening and I'll see a possibility to step into being more of one of them. And I will access it through one of the ways that I've described to you previously. So success is where opportunity meets preparation, Zig Ziglar. The consistent practice of the 12 disciplines of leadership excellence will prepare you for every opportunity, maximizing your possibilities and probability of success. They will exponentially impact your relationships, business, parenting, health, and every aspect of your life that you practice them. So I'm so overjoyed to be sharing these with you. This has been an incredible discovery. How it came to me is the last weekend that I spent with Daryl and other 45 coaches in the Ankush Jain Coaching Career School. I was coached by Ankush, and I was exploring what are the ways of being that I could show up and impact the people that are in front of me in 5 minutes and make the same amount of impact in 60 minutes that I normally make. So in 5 minutes, how could I impact them in the same way that I would take 60 minutes prior? And how could I impact them so deeply that they would know that they want to spend more time with me, or even have my support as a coach? And over the next 2 days, that came into my awareness, and it started to come up to the surface, and I had a revelation, and I downloaded from Spirit these 12 disciplines of leadership excellence. And since then, I've come home and I've had 2 life-changing conversations with my wife. My wife and I are relationship mentors. We've created the path of devotional love together. Even after having explored relationships and communication in different ways, even after that, my wife said to me, I don't know what's happened, but it's a miracle. It's a miracle how different you are. I showed up as my 10 out of 10 listening. I showed up as love. I showed up as a powerful acknowledger. I showed up as the 12 disciplines. And the effect was, even to my wife, who is my partner in this work and fellow traveler and seeker in this path, she told me it was a miracle how I was showing up. And since then, I've seen countless miracles occur in my parenting and even in my business. So I know if you apply these into your lives, and if you really practice them, and if you access them and embody them while you're being with the people that you lead, they will have phenomenal results in your life, and it will elevate how you're being and how you're showing up to everything. So thank you, and I hope you continue to practice after you've gone through.
All right. So when he talks about access points, when we talk about this being a place to come from, we don't want to treat these as ideas or concepts, right? This is something that touches our senses. Some of us could probably feel when he talked about the birth of his son, right, of his child. We go back to that moment, right? There's a feeling associated with that, right? It's not a nothingness moment, right? When we take ourselves back to that room and holding our child for the first time, there was a feeling. I talk about it and I can even feel it in my body without, I'm taken back to imagery and sensations going on, photos that showed up in that moment. when he talked about coming into a conversation, you imagine the listening you would bring if you knew this was the last conversation you were going to ever have with your parent. There's an energy behind that. We can feel it. Some of us who have lost our parents, it's like, man, if somebody said, hey, you're going to have one more conversation with your parent who you've lost, what kind of listening would you bring to that conversation? What kind of being? Who would you show up as? Would you show up the same way you're figuring out where you want to go to eat with your partner? No, it's probably something different, right? So these access points that he talks about are when we're with people, we can access one or all of these to bring us into a different state of being, to create a foundation and a place to come from. And this is, Damien, I love that you've become a distinction today. You say, get your name out my mouth. Now we have the Damien distinction, right? The intentionality he brings into the conversation, right? We can bring that level of intentionality into conversations with our direct reports, with our bosses, with our colleagues, with our kids, right? With our wives. I can have very default listening with my kids. You know, that doesn't matter what I'm doing or what's going on, they're going to start talking. Like, I don't even think about the kind of listening I have. I just listen or don't listen, and wherever I am on that spectrum. And so this is just inviting us into a new level of intentionality. So what I want to do is I want to really quickly go through these 12 so we have a context for the whole thing. I don't want to do it one at a time from the standpoint of, okay, one, and now let's talk about it in depth, because I want us to kind of have a sense of the whole picture, and then we'll come back and create some stuff on the other side of this. So again, I'm going to give you a worksheet that has all 12 of these, so feel free to write them down, but you will get this and we'll get them uploaded. So if you want to just be in the room and be in the conversation, don't feel a huge need to take a ton of notes. But I just want to, again, share these with you to set a foundation for us. So the first is I am love. You know, what is the difference in the conversation we have with Coach Anthony if we show up and we're thinking about him and the halls and the students or whatever it is, and the nervousness? Well, what if we slowed down just for a moment and said, I am love, and really got into that feeling of love? And what he writes here, see the person in front of you as if they were the person you loved most in the world. How many conversations have we had with our people? We said, before I have this conversation, I'm going to see you, David, as the person I love most in the world right now. You think that would shift something internally, that may move something before we get into whatever conversation we're going to have? A son, daughter, brother, sister, father, mother. Maybe it's your beloved partner. Hold their well-being above your own and love them like you would your own children. And Damien gave us an example of being in a school. Right? What does love look like as an administrator in a school? You have experience of this. If I really loved these kids, if I came from a place of pure love for these kids, there's nothing I couldn't say to that man. Right? If having this conversation, if Smith, Sean, and Parker's life were at stake, do you think you would hesitate at all? You think it would even matter if you were nervous or what kind of crazy quip he might come back with? It just wouldn't matter. Right? And so this is a place to come from. Right? So number one is be love. Gracious humility. And again, he told you that there's an I am statement that goes with these, so I'll give those to you. And this one is, I am what I am, and I don't know what I don't know. I am what I am, and I don't know what I don't know. I got it. My legs are long.
Very cool.
This is interesting, and I hope that you all can feel me coming from love, but I want to, I want to talk about this for a moment. I am what I am, and I don't know what I don't know. See, when somebody says fix your face, and it feels disrespectful, right? I'm coming from a knowing that this is disrespectful, from knowing that I don't like this. And we're not wrong for that, right? People do things that we feel are disrespectful, and chances are everybody we know would feel are disrespectful and couldn't or shouldn't be happening in the classroom or in the office or wherever it may be. And if we ever stop for just a moment and say, I don't know what I don't know. Maybe it's about the culture. Maybe it's about I don't know what's going on in this man's head when he's talking to me this way. It feels crazy to me, but I don't know what's going on in this man's head. And can we stop for just a moment to find out? Chances are some of the things that we are clocking as disrespectful, the moment we brought up, has anybody ever done that? I feel disrespected, or I feel like you're talking to me a certain way, and you bring it up with the person, and they're kind of like, oh my God, like I am so sorry. And their perception or their experience of what was happening was completely different than ours. Right? And so this idea of gracious humility, I am what I am. So Damien, you talked about standing in your power. No, I am the assistant principal. I am a leader in this school. I am responsible for our kids' well-being. I am committed to creating this result. I am what I am, and I don't know what I don't know. It says, own your greatness and acknowledge your limitations. To be gracious humility is to drop all conclusions and enter into the world of unknown in every conversation. You come from a space where you see you are capable of much more than you know, and so is everyone around you. If you show up with complete ownership of who you are, dropping the need to prove anything to anyone, you will stand in your power and be open to growth at the same time. Never look up to anyone. Never look down on anyone. See them exactly as they are. And that was a quote from Sadhguru. When you are embodying the distinction gracious humility, you acknowledge you are distinctly unique, and yet everyone is equally as important in the grand scheme of life. There is no better or worse, just different. So, number 3, I was just telling Alicia, this didn't exist before this group. I told you, I've been in on a lot of stuff with Kush. He never walked through right where your listening is, and a lot of us came back with 6s and 7s and 8s. It's like, well, what would it 10 out of 10 listening be? And I watched as the room shifted, right? I watched as we listened differently, and when he walked us through that. When we acknowledged where we are and the gap between that and what 10 out of 10 listening is, and how immediately available 10 out of 10 listening was for us. 10 out of 10 listening, I am listening as if my life depended on it. Listen as if your life depends on it. Listen as if you're sitting with the most interesting person on the planet. Think about it before you had a conversation with an employee. You just take a moment to get in this place. Listen as if you're sitting with a parent on their deathbed, and this is the last conversation you will ever have with them. Listen as if this person knows a secret that will save your life or save your company. Listen for what people aren't saying. Listen for what is behind what they say. Listen from a space of pure curiosity. There's a quote by Tony Robbins: the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. I loved how curious you got when you were working with Damien, right? Even, your approach, there were questions there. All of you as leaders brought questions into that conversation. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. And the quality of your listening determines the quality of the answers you receive. Right? If I bring incredible listening, if I bring 10 out of 10 listening, I'm going to hear things that had nothing to do with what the person said. I'm going to hear their energy. I'm going to hear their fear. I'm going to hear their concern. I'm going to hear their excitement. I'm going to hear their resistance. I'm going to hear things beyond the words that are spoken. And so often we can't ever get past the words that are spoken. All right? Be coachable. I am a mountain without a top. I am a master at the art of being a student. I think you all have heard the quote that I really like before. This is the difference between a student and a master is that a master has mastered the art of being the student. Right? And a master never forgets that they are the student. It says, master the art of always being a student. Allow every conversation to be life-changing. Allow every challenge you face to be an opportunity to enhance who you are being. Show up as if the person in front of you has the power to change your life, and listen with reverence. Who you are is a mountain without a top. There's infinite room for growth and expansion, always. Seeing there is no limit to who you can become, and being a lifelong learner, learning from everyone and everything is what being coachable is all about. Number 5, be real and authentic. I am absolutely at peace with who I am and who I am not. It'd be really easy for Damien to sit up here and say, well, if only I was a leader like Kate, or if only I was as direct as Tiffany, or if only I carried, I walked with, the gravitas of Nancy, or he can find a quality that everybody in here brings to the table, and use that as a mirror to say, what is he not? What am I not? What am I missing? What am I lacking? This is an opportunity to come from being at peace with who I am, right? To have the conversation I want to have and create the result with Coach Anthony doesn't require me to be anything other than who and what I am. Be yourself. Drop all comparisons. Own who you are so fully that there is no need to impress anyone or prove anything. Speak the truth and say the things others won't with love. Being gracious humility and real and authentic is the most powerful space to exist. You find peace with who you are, where you are at, and what you're doing. Comparison doesn't exist, just total acceptance of you and your unique path. You walk without the need to prove yourself to anyone, and you feel totally at ease with yourself. Authenticity vibrates 400 times more powerfully than love. The most magnetic state you can be is simply you. It's funny because I hear some of, if we go back to the Chris Doris book, some of the mantras that he shared in that book, like some of these things point in some of the same directions. A lot of the things we've been doing and talking about all point in the same direction. Right, number 6, be absolute presence. I am here with you. Be nowhere else but here and now. I'm willing to bet that if I asked the question and said, how many times are you speaking and talking with somebody in the office and your mind is on this conversation and also in Slack and also in the other stuff going on and also in the leadership meeting we have this afternoon and also in the deadline coming up. And we keep trying to bring ourselves back, but the people we're with are getting a percentage of us. Our kids, right? The number of times my kids come to me and I am here physically, but I'm in a million other places. This isn't about making who we're being or making anything in the way we show up is wrong. It's an invitation to ask the question, is there something better? Is there something more? Is there another way of being that I want to step into in this moment? Be nowhere else but here and now. There's infinite opportunity hiding in plain sight in this moment. Right? Those of us that access 10 out of 10 listening and were fully present with what Kush brought got something very different than people who didn't. And there's no judgment in that. It's just what this is, I invite you guys to be selfish at times. This is that, right? Slow down, remove all distractions, let go of anything that is not here, and be with this moment fully. We've all gotten different things and different amounts from this program. And we're all at the same program. We're all in the same room. We're all having the same experience. Well, we're having all different experiences of the same things occurring, the same circumstance. Right? But our ability to be here, you all in this room are going to get something different than people out of this room. When I watch replays of webinars and different things that I can't attend live, and I watch them in the gym, I listen to them in the gym, that's a very different experience than being in the room, being fully present to it then. Even if I was watching the replay, if I treated it and said, I'm going to be absolute presence with watching this video, I would have a very different experience. I don't know about you all, but when I miss church, I will sometimes go back and listen to the audio. It's very different being in the room with nothing else going on than when I'm listening to the replay. Right? Still good, still helpful, but it's just a different experience. For you sports fans in here, I used to refuse to watch recorded games, and just my life and the kids and all that stuff, it just got to a point that if I'm not watching them recorded, sometimes I'm just not watching them. But the way I'm with a game that's recorded is very different than I'm with a game that is live. I talk to the players when it's live. I don't have anything to say. I'm like, y'all are in your beds or somewhere else or whatever. Hey, even if I don't know the score, but I talk to them when it's live. I'm with them. I'm up, I'm down. My emotional reaction to a recorded game is very, very different. It's very different, which is fascinating. I don't know what happened. I just know that it's already happened. Slow down, remove all distractions, let go of anything that is not here, and be with this moment fully. Be empty and open to receive the totality of the person in front of you. Practice absolute acceptance of who they are and who they are not. Accept their greatness and their limitations. Love the parts of them they are unwilling to love in themselves. Let go of everything that is not in this moment and simply be with everything. See that this moment is the only thing that matters. See that this moment is inevitable. Number 7, you'll have heard this phrase before. Look for the gold. I am that I see gold in everything. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Right? So it's a famous quote. Right? We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. If I get the name right, Anais Nin. You see what you choose to see in others. So choose to see the greatest version of who they are, always. See their highest potential. See their greatness. Look for the gold in what they say, what they do, and who they are. Also see this in yourself. When you look for the gold, you will see opportunities and possibilities that others miss. You will see the hidden gold and opportunities and challenges and difficult moments where others won't. You will learn how to create luck and miracles for yourself where others would fail. You know, Damien showed us, what I love about that story is this felt really challenging, but on one hand we can be like, hey, how well is this guy showing up for his job? But you also were telling us about the rapport he builds with students, the relationship he builds with teachers, all the things that you appreciate in that relationship, right? It wasn't, hey, this guy is, you saw the gold in him and we need to create this result. But coming from that place of seeing the gold, and I think some of your all's approaches and the questions you asked walked right into inviting him to see the gold in himself by saying, I want to co-create a solution with you. I want your wisdom. I want your eyes. There are things you're seeing that I'm not seeing. That comes from your ability as a leader to see the gold, to see the value other people are bringing into the room. Number 8, we access this on the first weekend, and I've seen it throughout our time here. We saw powerful examples of this yesterday. I think it was Jamie who acknowledged Alicia yesterday. Yeah, that was gorgeous. I am that I speak greatness into being. I love this one because this is, I think I called this a leader's secret weapon, right? That we can speak greatness into being through acknowledgement. We create ourselves and others in language. Speak greatness into yourself and in others. Call forward the absolute best version. When you see the gold, speak to it, name it, and acknowledge it. Your acknowledgement is like sunlight and water for a plant. Whatever you give your attention and acknowledgement to will grow. Think about your own household. It's the only thing you're ever communicating to your partner, all the things that are wrong and not working. And then we act surprised when we get more of that. Right? Can we acknowledge the things they're doing well? Can we acknowledge the things that we appreciate, the things that we're thankful for, things they're absolutely crushing? And then when we do, chances are we're going to get more of those things. They'll grow. Speak to what you want to see in the people you lead, and you will call that version of them forward. You have the power to create a powerful context for others to live into. This is a gift and a responsibility. Acknowledge to create, never to destroy. Which walks us right into the next one. Be a powerful creator. Right? I am a powerful creator. You have the power to change lives. You have the power to create whatever you choose. And you have the power to change yourself, your relationship, your family, your company, and even a nation. See your power and create what you care for most in the world. A leader is someone who creates futures that otherwise wouldn't exist. Practice the art of creating context for people to live into and speak your vision into existence daily. Number 10, be devoted. Right? I am a devotee of, and it's ... because I can't give you something to be devoted to. And I can't, take the thing that inspires me or that I'm devoted to and then hand it to you and say, go be devoted to this thing. And remember, this is a place to come from. Whatever that thing is from you, where else can we bring that? It says devotion is a superpower. Devotion gives you access to a power far greater than yourself. Devotion is what empowers a woman to lift a vehicle off her trapped infant. Devotion is seeing your child being born and knowing you would die for him in the moment you meet him. Nothing exceptional was ever created without devotion. Be all in. Give all of yourself. Hold nothing back. Devotion requires your total involvement and a surrender to something greater than yourself. Hold your mission and the well-being of others above your own and give everything you have to whatever you are creating. Greatness and legacy are a consequence of devotion. Number 11, lead with vulnerability. I am that my vulnerability is a gift for others. Show people your heart and they will show you theirs. Share not only your success, but your challenges too. Share how you overcame your biggest obstacles and the lessons you learned along the way. Make yourself relatable. Make yourself approachable. People will respect you more if you lead with vulnerability rather than leading from a pedestal. And number 12, you love how it just lines up. Number 12 is be your word. I am my word. I do what I say, and I do what I'll do, and I say what I'll do with clarity and conviction. Do what you say and say what you'll do with absolute clarity and conviction. Your word is your commitment, and the integrity of your commitment is what creates miracles in the world. Integrity is more than just a virtue. It is the greatest leverage point of performance in one's life. Integrity makes everything work. The degree of integrity you have with your word directly affects productivity, performance, and results. If you have a bicycle tire with 5 spokes and you remove 2, the integrity of the wheel is jeopardized. It will no longer be able to go as far or as fast. If you remove the integrity in an organization, the performance of that organization decreases. Keeping your word is more than just a good thing to do. It's crucial for the performance of everything you do in your life that involves other people. And so these are the 12. All right, Jacob, you can pull that down. So I'm curious, just simply, now that we've heard a bit from Kai and how he thought about these, we could talk about how to access them more in just a moment. So if that's on your mind, it's like, hey, sounds great, but how do I get into that place? How do I access some of these ways of being? Bless you. Look at all that compassion in the room. We'll get into that, but I'm curious as to just how this hits you or what you see as possible when we get intentional or slow down and think about a place to come from. What's coming up from you as you either listen to Kai or listen to us walk through those?
I was thinking about this yesterday with the integrity conversation, but the be my word, the last one, that involves integrity, like it bothers me to think that the floor managers that report to me that they would think maybe that I am not true to my word. So I'm going to ask them, and I'll find some way to do it, but I want to know.
Yeah. And wherever their answer is, this becomes an access point to wherever you are now is the floor. Right? Whatever their reply is, and it doesn't even matter. Right? You'll certainly have some thinking if you asked it and made it a ranking question, and they said, well, David, I think you're 2 out of 10. I highly doubt that after being around you, that would be the response. But even if it was, it just wouldn't matter. If they said you were a 9 out of 10, it just wouldn't matter. Question is, okay, well, where else? Right? What if we treat being my word as a place to come from? And Alicia modeled this beautifully, that when that's our way of being, the things we do are very different. She wouldn't have sent that text yesterday. And it wouldn't have even registered that, it was just been done and gone. Right? So this way of being, when I say that these ways of being, these ontological access points invite us into new levels of doing, that's a great example. So yeah, I think it's great.
How do you avoid, be careful what you wish for?
Say more.
Huh?
Say more.
Well, oh, Jesus. So my mom, of course, in the middle, like midnight, we went to a wedding.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she just brought up that my boys, two of them, the oldest and the youngest, said that I chose my friends over them. And I was just thinking about where, because my kids were with me all the time. I took them everywhere. Their dad was always milking cows. So he could never go anywhere, so we went, you know, Albuquerque and stuff, like to go and see friends, but they all had the same kids. So at that point, as soon as we landed in Sacramento, I texted my youngest son and I said, can you meet me for dinner tonight? Because we got back, we landed at like 4, so we'll be back in Willows about 5:30 to 6. And he said, yeah. So we had dinner, we caught up, and I asked him the question. Nanny said this. Is that true? And Jack said, why does Nanny even say this stupid shit? And I said, well, no, I want to know. Did you have a conversation with Nanny? And why would Nanny even ask you these questions?
Yeah.
And so he said, no, Mom, no. He said, I went on a girls' weekend, whatever, why can't we give ourselves a break? He says, no, I didn't feel that way. Well, a couple of weeks later, I asked my oldest son, Greg, did you feel this way? And of course, he's the oldest. And I went back to college at 27, and he was like 4.
Yeah.
And I graduated when I was 30, so he was 8, 7. So I asked him the same question. He had a very different answer. He had yeah, I felt that way. But he liked to stay at the dairy with his dad. And I was not prepared for Greg's answer.
Yeah.
And I actually felt hurt.
Yeah.
But I realized, I said, I think this is coming from your father. And not how you feel. Because your dad did feel that way. Because I didn't like him. I didn't want to be around him. So be careful what you wish for, in that, are we prepared for the answers that we're going to get? And then I also told my boys, you know, you tend to see that vision. You said, I can see the potential of my kids, right? And about last year, I said, I just want to be your mom. I just want to be a grandmother. I'm not judging you. You got to make the decisions for yourself. You're in your 20s and 30s now. But that conversation with my oldest was hard.
Yeah. Would you rather not know?
I would rather have more time to have that conversation with Greg.
Yeah.
But he's it's like his dad. And I think a lot of us well, I don't want to know. Like, I want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
But I want to be a better person. I want to be a better mother. I want to be a better grandmother. I want to be a better friend.
I feel, can everybody feel that?
Of course.
Feel this desire, and if that is your experience of me or of our relationship, it's interesting because you just now shared the intention, and I want to have a conversation. If we go back to this, the idea of these disciplines, there are amazing invitations around this, right? To come from a place of, I can come from a place of this is how it is, or this is how he feels, or he's wrong, or this is why, or this is who, or and I can also say I'm a powerful creator, right? And that's something you can access. And you say, I want to have more time for that conversation. You have all the time in the world. Let's go have it. Let's go create that. You're clear on what you want.
And you can never, like Kai said, those babies come out, we carried them, we birthed them, or whether they're adopted or whether it's surrogacy or whatever it is, it's your child. You've never loved anything more in your life.
Yeah.
And when Greg had his grandson, or his son, my grandson, we were in the hospital and I said, did you ever think you could love something this much? someone this much. He goes, Mom, I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah.
And I said, this is the way I love you.
Yeah. And for you to slow down and your vulnerability, which is one of these
I know,
things.
I'm so sorry.
But don't apologize for it. It's a gift, right? We literally just said.
Sorry, Kate.
And you're really modeling a few different, things here. And one of the things is I can go into a conversation with Greg. I can go and I can say, I am a powerful creator. I'm going to create more time and more space for this conversation. It's going to be a place to come from, and I'm going to do that. And you figure that out, and you are there for that conversation. And once again, my access point to that conversation may be, screw your dad. It could be, this is all his fault. It could be, I've never loved anything or anybody as much. You taught me love. You showed me love. I experienced a level of love. And if I access that conversation through that point, it's just going to be a different conversation. If I'm mad or angry or blaming, it's going to be a different conversation.
Well, it could be with my mom. It could be with a coworker.
Yeah.
Shelly. And it's like, it's a conversation you have to have, but are you prepared for the answer that you're going to get or their perception of what the situation is?
Yeah.
So being prepared and being ready for something you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I heard you, what the subtext of what you were saying as the struggle for you in that area was the one that was the I'm the mountain without a top, like you've got to have room for that. So if there's growth, if there's something he wants to share that can create the depth for your relationship, do you have openness for that at that moment? Or are you coachable in that area as a mom? Because it's hard to be responsible for someone that then is forming you.
Yeah, and I feel like our relationship changed after that in the last couple months. Because that was June.
And you can create from that place. I think I've been fairly open, and I know for sure some of you know, but I think all of you do, that Meredith and I had divorce attorneys a couple years ago. I know we've had a lot of conversations around it. And I wasn't, to your point, Meredith. Like, energy's funny, man. Hold on, let me loop you into this conversation. No, I'm just... But we had divorce attorneys, and I wasn't ready. It's funny, here I was up until this moment I want us to be honest, and I want connection, and I want truth, and I want all these things. And then it hit me like a tidal wave that I wasn't ready for. And I couldn't even hear her experience in the beginning with some of the stuff that unfolded. I couldn't hear it. But now what we're doing and what we're creating, I've been sharing some photos on social media, and Marwan sent me a message, and he said, my God, dude, he said, when all this started, when you and I started talking about this a year ago, if you would have told me Meredith would have been out in front of the room, sharing and being a part of the room, he said, that wasn't on any bingo card I had a year ago or 6 months ago. But even when it takes us time to be with somebody else's truth, right? Not the truth, that's just his truth.
Yeah.
Or what it looks like to be able to be with that and then create from knowing that truth is power. Is power. Right? And you learning as we sit and be with that, right? There are places that I've come from in conversations with Meredith over the last couple of years that moved us further away from where I wanted to be or what I wanted to create, and there are others that moved us closer. And even though I wasn't thinking about it in these terms at the time, that's what's available. I think your warning feels too strong, but your note of caution, be careful what you wish for. Let's turn to page 84.
I was going to say, I couldn't have had that conversation without this. Because like I said, June.
Yeah. And we've talked about this one before. This is a oldie but goodie. I keep putting it, you'll notice that if you went through all three books, that you see some things that are in all three books. But this is the one, right? This is the one when you say, am I ready for that? It's like, it feels risky to ask the question, right? It feels risky. Is this really how you felt? Nana told me this. Is this how you felt, Greg? And it really feels risky as like, okay, now he's going to give you an answer. That feels even riskier. But and Jamie, what I think I hear you pointing to is there's growth in this for us, right? If we can identify that this feels risky, but there's no risk in hearing Greg's experience of you as a mom. Right? There's no risk in hearing Meredith's experience of me as a husband. I don't like it. It didn't feel good, right? But it's what has led to her being in this room this weekend. It's what's led to me looking forward to going home. This not being something to escape, be away from. It's what led to the four of us still being in the same household. You know, and it can create something beautiful when we step into and Jamie, you inspired this just when I heard what you said. When we step into these moments that feel risky, it's like, be careful what you wish for, is this feels risky. And if we take just a moment and say, is this actually risky? Or is it actually safe? It's safe to be with Meredith's experience of me, however uncomfortable it is. It's safe, it's actually safe for Coach Anthony to not like this conversation or not like me or have something to say or talk smack behind my back. And there's growth for me in this when I step into these moments. So I hear be careful what you wish for, to just slow down and kind of assess, okay, I feel this, I don't have to ignore it, I don't have to act like it's not there. And can I be with whatever comes out the other side? Can I be with showing up in this way even if it's not back to me? Can I be with being this intentional about the way I show up as a leader when the person I'm probably in a conversation with hasn't brought a fraction of this amount of thought or intention into how they're going to be with me? Right? Can I be with bringing 10 out of 10 listening to somebody who has 1 out of 10 listening for me? Who is listening to fight, who is listening to disagree, who is listening, you know, from a place of right and wrong? And can I be with those things?
One small question
Yeah.
about this, because again, during the other conversation, there are beautiful sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
But us as humans in our humanity, when we talk about access points, often we aren't these things because we have experiences where those things felt like vulnerabilities that someone else might have compromised.
Yeah.
And so we don't always open ourselves up to listening, because maybe you were open to listening 10 out of 10 and somebody said something deeply hurtful.
Yeah.
Or they've done something that it affected you in a way that felt like. So the idea of opening back up in all of those ways, to me, feels like you're creating more access points for like a, for a place that's already kind of scarred.
Yeah.
How do we operate in this, or how do we move into this most fully with those things in mind? Because we are all a sum of our experiences, and some of these things will be very easy, and some of these things will be very complex.
Yeah, and some of these things will be 10 out of 10 easy in this situation or with this person, and you being the same person, it feels completely different in another situation in the next. And the experiences you've had that have created this, hey, okay, this feels risky and is risky. So I see all of these as a choice, right? I don't see any of these things as shoulds. I'm not here telling you that you should be this all the time and you should be that all the time. It's an invitation, and you can decide what that looks like, and it actually may look different, you know, with one person than another, or in this situation than that situation.
How do we do that without creating blind spots for things we don't want to be? Because I do think that there is growth in all of these things, that when you operate most fully in all of them, then you have more access even for yourself to
100%.
the fullest part of your being. How do you do that with that? I think the thing that we come away from this is that we have an inherent sense of danger now from other experiences.
Yeah, you practice. You practice. I mean, this is the, you know, and he said it, this is a practice, right? He talked about meditation, right? So if we see this as binary, as absolutely, you know, am or am not, absolutely right, it's just a practice, right? That we practice coming from these places. And I promise you, if whoever in here takes this and says, you know what, I'm gonna do what Kai said, I'm gonna print this out, got the one pager, got it above, I'm gonna be this in every interaction and every meeting today, and whoever, excuse my phrasing, gets it the most right. If I revisited them 6 months later, it's gonna look totally different. Right? Same person, same commitment, same, 10 out of 10 listening is gonna look completely different, deeper into that practice. You know, How do you learn to be a great 0-2 hitter? You know, you have a whole lot of 0-2 at bats, and we learn from the ones where I got the hit, and we learn from the ones we didn't. So we just stay in the practice of it. And some people may say, cool, I can jump from 2 out of 10 listening by default to I'm going to bring 10 out of 10 listening, and that's just it. And some people's practice may look like, okay, I have an intention of 10 out of 10 listening, but if I got really honest after the conversation, it was 4 out of 10. But I'm going to keep bringing that intention, and then suddenly it's 5 out of 10 and 6 out of 10, right? And we just keep coming from that place. So it's a practice, and I don't care how much we practice. You know, Mackenzie said it, I think yesterday or the day before, said about 100% of anything. These are intentions. These are I'm going to make an intention to come from this place. I set some real intentions. I will slow down at times and think about, what do I want Meredith to feel in a conversation? What do I want to create in a conversation? I'll get really intentional about what that is, and I will really think about this. And sometimes I'll even put language to it and share it. And if you had a drone flying over that conversation and you checked in 10 minutes later, it's like, okay, he said this intention, but this thing looks a lot different from what that is. Then we can bring ourselves back, right? And that's the beauty of meditation. I mean, I've never meditated and was able to stay with my breath for 2 minutes, much less 10. You know, but I remember when I talked to Father Joe about this, and I said, man, how does this happen? How do you do this? I said, I couldn't get to 5 breaths without being off somewhere else. So what'd you do next? I said, I just brought myself back to my breath and started over. He said, sounds like it was a great sit. Here I am like, this was terrible. I got distracted 100 times in 10 minutes. He said, sounds like it was a great sit. So I think if we treat this as a practice and not as a destination, not as a place to get to, but a place to come from, it can look a lot different.
Oh, there you go.
I just keep talking until I get that reaction.
Not a place to get to, but a place to come from.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're all coming from this, because we've had a benefit of a 6-month program, those we're sitting with or working with are not coming from these same places.
Not by default.
Right? And so, like, it'll feel good when I'm like, oh, I'm listening. I'm so listening to this person, but they have no idea.
Unless they did.
Unless they did, or maybe they don't, and maybe listening wasn't the right example, but I'm sitting here with so much love for you, and yeah, so it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
On our side, right?
Yeah.
And I actually am okay in a space where not everybody likes me all the time. I mean, I want people to like me most of the time, but there are times that
That's what April was saying earlier. She's like, I can be with that. I think that's a skill. Yeah.
so I get that, but it's just there could be a level of like frustration, right, that we might internalize of thinking like, yeah, we're really working on this, we're coming from this, we're trying to be these great leaders, but everyone I'm trying to do this with has like never even met Daryl, or that kind of thing. So it's like, how do we move forward in those moments where we feel like we're really putting in, because I believe that everyone in this room is going to go back and try all these kind of different things that we've learned over 6 months, and we're going to put this effort in. And I can see and projecting out, like, there could be some real frustrations on our end when we may not be getting something back that we want to be getting. So as we practice it, Daryl, like, how do we
not drive ourselves nuts?
Do you think they're not prepared for this, Tiffany? Like, they know you, but are they prepared for the quote-unquote new Tiffany?
Who's
or the
the
different Tiffany? Your employees.
I'm just talking to them, maybe,
Yeah.
but I'm talking like my family, my husband.
Yeah. All right. We'll go to April and then we'll come. We'll go to April and then come to Alicia.
When you were talking, I had a thought of because he actually asked us the exact same question, and we said, do it one person at a time, or elicit somebody, and then see if there's like a ripple effect and how because we're all trying to build a culture no matter what setting it's in. So for me, I went home and I tell my husband all about it, like, these are things I'm trying to do, and I do the same thing at work. So it is a lot to implement and do. And I even talked to my boss, I was like, I'd love to like send more people to this. I was like, is there like a plan? And she was like, well, I really want this to be something that we kind of sit with and see how you guys roll out. I'm like, God, that's a lot to roll out. Like, how do I actually roll that out? And I just was like, I'm gonna start with one. I'm gonna start with one person, and then like I was writing yesterday, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna tell this one to Jocelyn, and I actually will put someone's name at the top of the page, just because like I can't do all of these things all at once, but I can do one thing at once. Like, those are my framework.
I do the same thing.
It's beautiful. And I think, hold on a second. I was going to go to Alicia, and then we'll go to you right after.
This might be simplistic, but you're not doing it for them. Like, you're not doing it to get them to react a certain way. Like, the practice is going to benefit you regardless of how they react. So I think it's just believing that and knowing that you're just becoming your best self, regardless of how they act.
That's why we love Alicia.
Few words, but when she speaks. Hey, can everybody understand why like her plays are like, will you send this Friday email? Can you please? Right. Yes, can you commit to sending us all a Friday email too? Miss Shelby?
Oh, all I was gonna say is like, yes, it's all of these things, but Emily, in her definition of leadership, it was the modeling of it.
Yeah.
So it's a ripple effect in that as well, because as you change it in habit, someone might say, oh, I really liked how Tiffany dealt with Susan. I'm going to approach that with whoever, or different things. So it's not necessarily that they have to have the same understanding, it's that you're setting the bar.
I do think though, frustration for sure will happen. Which is why it's important to have a community around you who has the same language, who has the same words that you can tap into, or that motivation that are like bringing you out of the moment when you're like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah.
It's like losing weight 6 times.
Son of a bitch. I mean, Ann was at 3 together with us 3. Lauren has 3, Water has 3, but it's almost like Mario's at it alone.
Well, actually, I feel like mine's way easier because my boss and my boss's boss at the time.
Yeah.
But it's going to be different. It's going to be different with a new ED and VP, and so maybe I can't. Like I can joke with Brandy and June, be like, can we make an agreement on this? And they'll know exactly what I'm saying, And like they put me in the program, so it's like in some ways it's actually very beneficial for me. But I might have to teach or like use other words. When I have a different set of leaders.
And we can, the language, and here's a phrase that we've all heard, best kept secret. It's always been an interesting phrase. Like, who wants to be the best kept secret? That's a terrible business plan. And I think with some of these things and some of what you're learning, right? I think it's human tendency. I used to do this a lot, and I think a lot of other people do is, I don't want to tell you about it. Like, I want you to feel it for me. I want you to experience it. I want you to feel my 10 out of 10 listening, but I'm never going to create through language. So we can, I think as leaders, I think we have a massive opportunity here to create some shared language within our team to share, and even context with one person. Before we have our next one-on-one, can I slow down and say, April, I want you to know the listening I'm bringing to this conversation. And maybe invite her to do the same, right? And that one little bit, is an opportunity. When I was in this program, when I flew to Kentucky, we talked about 10 out of 10 listening. And you take a moment and ask, on a typical day when we have these conversations, how would you rate your listening, right? Is it 10 out of 10, or you think about the other project or the thing, and you share a concept of 10 out of 10 listening. So it's not, I'm recreating a 6-month school for my team, but can we start sharing ideas? Can we reach out and say, Daryl, what would be awesome is if you did a half-day workshop with our whole entire team, right? These are the little things. If you did a half-day workshop or an hour workshop, or you created something or some video series or some Friday email. We could, we joke, we say, nobody wants to, what do I have to share on a Friday? You could literally take the 6 months of this program and write something for somebody to just see a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper every Friday. Share one idea, share one thing you're seeing, share one thing you're practicing, share your experience. Right? So as leaders, if we take all of this stuff and we just see it as ours to be better at what I do, what are the results your team's going to create if they're bringing a new level of listening to one another? If they bring a level of intention and a place to come from, if they understand the power of agreements, right? Because she said, I can joke with Brandy and Jamie about it, but I'm willing to bet that we can get into creating an agreement really quickly. And there's very little expectations around that part. It's like, okay, this is what it is. You know, what is ours to do and what not ours to do. So I do think as leaders we can bring this in and create context. We could shy away the same way, you know, we could treat the board as our coach Anthony. It's like, oh, I can never talk to the board about how we listen to each other. But I would say that that'd be one of the most important things that whoever ends up being your new ED could take on, is the listening, right? Which drives the respect.
I don't think any of us are listening to each other. We're all talking at each other.
Yeah. So we see the impacts of it, right? We see the very real impacts of it. Right.
And I'm just saying to the staff sitting around the room, you know, come back to each other and say, did you freaking see that ridiculousness? Because I feel it in the room. Yeah. But regardless, I saw it. Marco's hand up, or Mario Polo.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one thinking it.
No, you know me, I'm always calling you out because, well, here's the thing. I admire your presence in the room. I admire everybody's presence. I was just, you know, thinking about April just a second ago, from the day I met you to the day today. Like the consistency, I still feel the same way. Remember, we had to pick someone and say something about it, and I was like, I even have like more admiration. You're like stoic and steady, and anyway, I got off on the subject, but April, I really admire you, but you have
like the drive-by acknowledgement.
So I'm calling you out because I care and I want to hear more from you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I'm sorry, Daryl. I'm just, how can I talk?
So it's interesting, this conversation, because I was thinking about like how I'm going to come out day one after this 6 month. But my day one started like day one. You know what I'm saying? So the impact that I know that I've had on my family, friends, coworkers, like they even tell me like, you're different. Like the things that you say, the way you act, you know, it's different. So yeah, I'm not the loudest in the room, but like apparently I had an impact
You do.
because of this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because of you all.
What a great compliment.
All these conversations, we were talking about this. Each one of you guys has had an impact on the way, you know, my learnings and my growth. So thank you for your vulnerability. Like,
it's so stupid.
Isn't it funny how the language we have for each other? I mean, it's just interesting to say like we can't see it, right? So
thank you.
This one thing, so thank you for accepting the acknowledgement. But what did it say? And maybe this is you, right? Maybe you look at these and say, you know what? I'm not going to practice 12 of these. I want to practice one. What would it be? I could build an entire practice. Angie, lead with vulnerability, right? The first line says, I am that my vulnerability is a gift for others. What would change for you if you really saw your vulnerability as a gift for others? And vulnerability is tricky because I think one of the things we talked about is, I think sometimes, you know, this doesn't mean we go online and share all of our deepest, darkest stuff with everybody, or we bring all of our stuff into every room. And that's not what it is about. In fact, when you think about vulnerability, I think the place, you know, we talk about ontological access points. One of the ways we can check in is, am I sharing from the wound, or am I sharing from the scar?
Ooh, that's the part.
Right? Like if I'm sharing from the wound, it may not be quite time to share. right? There's pain, there's stuff to work out and things like that. And I think sometimes with vulnerability, we can get pulled into, like this room's safe, right? Like we can share from anywhere in here because we can all hear it because of the listening we've created. Out in the world, sharing from the wound may not be the most powerful place to come from, but if we can share from the scar, we can share from the lesson, the thing we learned, the thing we saw, it's a whole different conversation. And it can still land and invite that level of vulnerability into leadership and into a conversation.
Mine goes to the, not from the wound, but from the icebox where my heart used to be.
That could be an entire conversation, or that could be an entire practice for you, right? So that one thing, lead with vulnerability, could be an entire practice for you. Right? All right, here's what I want to do. It's 12:15. We're going to do probably lunch around 1 o'clock. Let's take 10 minutes, grab coffee, use the bathroom. We'll take about 10 minutes. We'll make it 15. So take 15 minutes. We've been going for a while. We'll take 15 minutes, and we'll be back in here at 12:30. And then we'll got about a half hour to take this a little bit deeper, and then we'll go grab lunch. We're going to create little pods of 2, but we've got the entire room, so we can spread out. So we can take like these 2 chairs and put them over in this corner. You know, those 2 chairs can go back against the wall. People can be in the middle. So you and the person next to you, just find a new space for your chairs. If you want to stay around the table, it's cool, but let's just spread out. And so we're gonna have some conversation. We're gonna play with some of these things and make it real. So just spread out in whichever way feels good. All right, so, and all it is the, exactly what's there. Yeah. So, and we're gonna be moving around. So I wanted to spread us out a little bit so we could just play with this and mix it up a bit. Now, we can keep talking about it, or we can actually start to experience what it feels like to move into some of these things, some of these spaces. So where's Alicia? Alicia's over here. You asked about number 5, be real and authentic. You asked if we're going to talk more about that because you had a question. What's your question?
Just the language again around that being authentic is 5 times more magnetic than love. Is that what it was?
That's what he said. I thought it was interesting too.
Like, how does he know that?
So.
I know he's high and everything.
No, so I don't know. I would be lying if I said, well, I know he took it from this or whatever it is, but I do know that what him and his wife has created and where they've spent all their time in this profession has been around what they call the path of devotional love. So the domain of love, right? Some would say that I coach or the place I spend my time is in the domain of leadership. So they come from this domain of love. But it's a great question. I will ask him and get back to you on where it comes from. But he's also one of those guys, like, he got it from somewhere. He didn't just pull it out of thin air. I'm confident in saying that. But but I don't know where, I don't know the context behind it. Because even when I read that out loud in the room, I was like, oh, that's interesting. The power of devotion. And it's interesting because you see the word devotion show up in so much of his stuff that there's something there. So I like that we're curious about what it is. Jacob, will you make a note to ask Kai? I don't want to make you work and go back and forth. So any other questions on that? Okay, cool. Well, let's start with that. Let's play with that. Here's what I want to do. I want to put this into practice and just play with it. And these are going to be short. Right? I want us to, again, this is the last thing I'm doing is giving you guys tools or things that's like, okay, set aside 15 minutes before each meeting. That wouldn't work well. Right? But I believe we can get into some of these places, some of these states really, really quickly. So if we think about the one Alicia brought to the table, be real and authentic. Right? And the language of that is I am at peace with who I am and who I am not. And so there are some ways to play with this. And one of the ways is just to simply recall a moment you told the truth, unvarnished, and felt free afterwards. Right? Recall a moment you told the truth, and just think about this for a second. You told the truth, unvarnished, and felt free afterward. Let that freedom expand in you. So, that would be a kind of general, if this was up on front of your computer or whatever it is, and you said, hey, I want to get into this state, whatever that moment might be for you, that could be a place you always went back to, right? It could be a conversation with a coworker, it could be a conversation with, your ex-husband, right? I lived with this forever, and the day I stood up to him, the day that I had the conversation, the day that I shared my truth, right? There's a lot of moments that could be. I'm gonna make it easier in this room and as we practice this. I want you to think of a time that you haven't showed up fully over the last 6 months in this program, right? So I've given us two things, right? The first is I want to access my realness and authenticity. So forget what I just said. Go to the first part. I want you to think of a time in your life. I want to come back to it because I want to access this, but I want you to come back to it. Start with, think of a time that you've shown up and told the truth and that you felt freedom afterwards. You felt freedom afterwards. Can you access one of those moments? Is there something that comes to mind? Just sit with that for a moment. I mentioned one of my former clients who wrote a book, and one of the things we coached around was a friendship that she was really scared. It wasn't productive. She was a part of a group of women for a very long time. And this woman's name was Rhonda. So not my client, but her former friend. And there wasn't a lot left in the relationship. And Nicole finally got the courage to have an honest conversation with Rhonda. And that conversation shifted the course of her life. She has now written a book about that conversation and the way her life unfolded afterwards. She's a published author. She's going on book tours. The book released about a month ago. Her relationship with the rest of her friends and her friend group, her saying yes to things that didn't serve her. They used to, the first Sunday of every NFL weekend, they'd go to Vegas, get absolutely hammered, and have the party of a century. And she was like, I just didn't want to do it, but I was so afraid to lose my friends, to lose my friendships. I never wanted to let them know I've lost interest in this. Right? So do you have one of those moments, a place where you got honest, you told the truth, and maybe it's the truth about you. Maybe it was something that you were able to admit to yourself. My relationship with food isn't where I want it to be. And there's a freedom in that because you could finally move on to doing what you're going to do with it. So recall a moment you told the truth unvarnished and felt free afterwards. And as you sit with that moment, I'm not even going to ask you to talk about it or share it. As you sit with that moment, let that freedom expand in you. Just feel it. And from that place, right, that is our ontological entry point. We take ourselves back to that moment that we told the truth, we were honest, and we felt free afterwards. And now I want you to think of a time you haven't shown up fully over the last 6 months in this program. No judgment, right? Not making anybody wrong, but think of a way and a place. For you, it may be, you know what, I never log into Mighty Networks. Like, honestly, if you all ask me, where's a place that I haven't shown up fully? I haven't been in that, I haven't logged in as much as I thought I would in the beginning. I'll probably make some changes in what I do with that next time around, seeing the engagement and how we play with it. Me and the team will talk about that. But I was like, yeah, the way I show up in this room, if I had to measure the way I show up here with you and the way I show up in the Mighty Networks community, it's night and day, right? It feels different.
Like you're looking into my soul.
It's almost like y'all think I didn't notice there's not a ton of engagement in there? There's a surprise. Oh shoot, he saw. Right? So no judgment. It's just a chance to fully own it. Right? Say, hey, if there was a place that I left something on the table in the program, it was right here. That I probably could have gotten more. If I would have given more, I probably could have gotten more. So from this place of the freedom of just owning our truth, and not, I hope nobody finds out, but owning our truth, I want you to, with your partner, and only take 30 seconds each, right? So we don't need story, there's no, breaking it down, there's no what we're gonna do differently. It's just stepping into this moment of truth. I want you to take 30 seconds each and share a place or a time that you haven't shown up fully over the last 6 months in this program. Again, no judgment, just a chance to fully own it. So share that moment with your partner.
All right, I got one, and I got to get it on my chest quick. I forget. Just reading through this, I am. You've been reading yours. I think you said I am. I don't know what yours is. But I read mine. I was born. Like everyone's talking about who they are, and I'm talking about who I was. I had to go back and revisit where I would make my adjustment. It'd be like really being intentional about where I am and where I'm trying to go.
In a leadership
capacity. Because this is like sharing my history. I want to talk about the move forward.
One of the things that I have a topic for my laser session, and I just haven't committed to it because even Daryl and I had a conversation about it. But like, I'm just not. I don't know that I want to do that. Okay. Just because I don't like that much attention on myself, even though I know it's a private kind of thing.
Yeah. Is it because it's put out for all of us to see?
Well, I think it's probably because.
All right, so I'm going to pause us here.
I'll tell you later.
I know it's short and intentionally short. This is more about the practice of coming from this place than it really is about even what is sharing. What is the feeling in our bodies? Mario, I just happen to be standing next to you. I would love for you to share into the room the moment you spoke about it. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, so I reflected back in this book and I was looking at different profiles because sometimes I forget you guys' names. Forget mine too. But as I was reading, I see I am. And I went to mine and it says, I was born, I was. So I talk about past, like where I've been, not where I'm going, where I am now. So if I had to go back, like it'd be to be present into like where I'm trying to go.
I'm curious. So in this room, from this place, as a place to come from, right? Not judgment, but when you see that as an opportunity, we've had a lot of conversations. There was a time where it's like, man, it can be easy to judge myself or get on myself, but how does it feel to be able to recognize that and just say, oh, isn't this interesting? Like your energy around it isn't one of judgment. It seems like there's a different energy about just owning that and seeing that in this moment.
Yeah, I feel like I'm more honest with myself on where I am.
Yeah.
And with that honesty, like it's easier for me to like pivot to where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
You know?
So if we shift the place we're coming from, we don't have to get caught up in all the judgment, all the stuff, all the mental gymnastics we normally have to do. And then maybe one day I'll get in a point to say, okay, well, given all that and I can't do anything about it, what's next? It's like, well, we can just start there. So that was a beautiful example. Who has a curiosity about one of these other ones? Maybe you had to pick one off the list. What do you want to play with?
Be a powerful creator.
All right, be a powerful creator. So the language of that, I am a powerful creator. So again, when we think about these ontological entry points, right? We're accessing something. He often referred to the birth of our kids or imagine if. Right? So here, I want you to picture something that exists today only because you spoke it into being. Right? Only because you were the creator of it, right? A place where you created something out of nothing. Right? For me, it may be this program, right? I remember talking about it and I had an idea and nurtured that thing. It's like now we're all coming to the end of this 6-month journey. So what is that for you? Right? I want you to picture something that exists today only because you spoke it into being. Feel the weight and wonder of that. So when you have that in your mind, I'm going to give you just a moment and I'm going to be quiet to think about what that thing is for you, and then I'll tell you what to do next. And now, this is what we're going to do with our partners. I want you to speak a 6-month future in present tense. 6 months from now, right? What is a possibility that you see for yourself, for your leadership? What is a project or a creation? What is something that, take your partner 6 months from now, so it's not September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So now we're all the way back at March. Right? And speak from that place. Hey, it's March and 6 months ago, and what exists today is, right? It may be a shift in your relationship, a shift in your health, a shift in what's going on at work. It may be a program, it may be a career change, like whatever it is. Like what do you want to be true for you 6 months from now? Right? And take a moment and think and reflect on that. And then when you're ready, share it with your partner. Again, this will be short, so there's not going to be a ton of story or detail around it, but just share with them, what is it? If we are powerful creators, if we accept this as true, what is it that I want to be true? What is it that I want to create in my world, in my life, in my organization, in my family 6 months from now? Choose one. Share it with your partner.
Let's go first. I think that you know that I'm like less than 2 years away from retirement most likely. And because I've been in I created my creative services team 25 years ago and it's grown. I want to, I'm already thinking about it, but I have to create a plan, not just for succession, but like I do think that things have shifted where I need to align jobs differently and then selling it to my boss because she ultimately will be the one who has to implement it. But I want to be part of the implementation while I'm there.
Okay. I like that. So for me, when I started this program, before I started this program, one of my goals was to get more education. And that education I thought was going to be go get my MBA. And I knew that the education would lead to more opportunities in leadership. So this came along. So this is my education that I was seeking. And I've gotten so many other leadership opportunities because of it.
Because of this?
Yeah, like leading a mentor program in my company. I'm a trustee of church now. Like all the past few months because of the way I presented. You know what I'm saying? So I was open to these things because, I think people gravitate to, it's like that energy that you put out there. So in 6 months to a year, I want to have my career mapped out for the next 5 years. I'm one of the kind of the go with the flow type of people. I'm tired of doing that. I need to be more specific in where I'm
come back to the main
conversation. I want to be in the driver's seat, yes.
All right, and in the spirit of being a powerful creator and coming from a place of we create through language, there is power in creating what you just created with your partner. Right? That is generative. Right? We've created momentum. We're not in the same place we were 120 seconds ago. So that one stood out to you. I'm curious, what is it that, if we fast forward 6 months, what is it that you're going to have created?
Well, I was just telling Nancy, I want to have gained a new client and be their strategic growth advisor and be more fluent in French.
Beautiful.
And have fun.
Okay, I put it here. So be a client and be their strategic advisor, and she wants to be fluent in French.
Yeah. How many people would bet against her on any of that?
No.
We're powerful creators. I'm curious, does that feel there and available to you, or does it feel like some crazy, maybe hopefully one day if everything just lines up exactly right, those things can happen?
It feels available.
Yeah. That's the point, right? Did whatever you shared with your partners, did it feel available? Did it feel like you could almost go out and grab it?
In a way.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious, what was yours?
We talked about sort of the nature of change, where we are professionally, and that the things that we did previously were the feelings they evoked, the ability to influence and kind of the product of your hand, how invigorating that was, that sort of taking the bounds off of it being just in that place. If it's available in that place, that's something. But if it's not in that space, but just still getting to the next phase of the being able to grow, influence, shape, develop is the goal. But to me, like, that was very specific and actionable. And for me, this is like the ethereal thing that is harder to put your hands around.
Yeah, so it's going to be easier to say, I want to create a team that operates like this, or a health goal, or things like that. It's going to be more tangible than some of the other things. So that makes perfect sense. And the idea here is that we get into our bodies, right? We take ourselves back. One of the things for you guys, and just the fact that you all are together, is I remember the early days, and what you all created at Andwell wasn't just a default path. You ought to work through some stuff. I mean, hell, even your all's relationship, right? That's a creation, right? And what you all put into that, and the way you all talk about each other and are able to work together, right? The three of you all in this room, like that didn't just happen. That was a creation. And maybe something we channel is a relationship that's almost like, my God, if you would have told me back then we would have been here, I wouldn't have believed it. Right? Especially as you all come into a situation where now there are new players involved, new parties coming into the conversation, and maybe the relationships aren't as comfortable or not where I want them to be. And it's like, well, if I can come from this place of I created this, can I apply that and come from that place and what I create next? Right? Because we can always find the reasons why, well, this is different. But this was different at one point too. All right, so I want to kick one of you, y'all can decide which, out of a chair and go find a new chair. All right, somebody tell me about your curiosity. Where do we go next? 1 through 12. I heard it. I heard it.
Look for the gold, and I think because we talked about that previously, and it was the gold or the fool's gold kind of a thing,
Yeah.
that what is authentically gold?
Beautiful. All right. Right on the back of what we just spoke about. So this is what I want to create as. By the way, I'm giving us examples of access points. Right? These are just things that I took what Kai had said, I took the topic, and then I played with, cool, what is a potential access point to this? When you create your own practice around this, it could be completely different. So don't take the examples I'm giving you here as the only way in, the only access point. It can be completely different. But a potential access point for this one is to think of someone who once underestimated you, or who you once underestimated that surprised you. Right? So someone that you once underestimated, you didn't think much of, or didn't have a lot of faith in what they were able to do or create, and who they were being, who surprised you. Right? And I want us to feel into that shift of seeing their greatness. And so think of someone you once underestimated who ended up surprising you. Think of the shift in that greatness. Maybe an employee. I mean, for me right now, it's funny. I'm thinking about these for the first time. I was in the academic part of this, so I actually didn't do it as I was saying this, but the first thought that came to mind was just a few days ago, racing my 10-year-old. And being so sure that he was making a terrible bet and he was going to lose $10. And him being so stubborn and hard-headed that he was destined to learn the hard way. And then he smoked me. Right? Like, that's a visceral, like, I feel that. And that shift of seeing his greatness, right? That shift of seeing him as an athlete. We used to talk about how goofy he was on the soccer field and how he could be all over the place. Like, that shift, and I chalked it up, cool, he's cool on ice. He's cool, put knives on his feet and he's great. But running isn't that. And like literally in the span of the driveway to the stop sign, completely shifted the way that I saw him. Right? And it had me wondering, where else am I underestimating him? Where else am I seeing him one way, but that's just some locked in idea I have in my head? So I can channel that shift in seeing his greatness. And I want you to bring that feeling to your partner. So first, I'll tell you what to do next, but first, think of who that person is and think of that shift in the way you see them. And once you have that, here's my question, or here's what I want us to do. I want our partner, and it may take you a moment just to pick one, have something in your mind. I want the partner to share something that's been challenging. And just as an example, I'll use Damien. He may share, I've been wanting to have this conversation for a very long time. It's been challenging to figure out a way to have this conversation with Coach Anthony, and share a little bit about that. And I want the other person to be listening from a place of looking for the gold in what they're sharing. Right? Looking for the gold in who they're being, looking for the gold in the story. So I'm intentionally asking the partner to bring something that feels challenging right now, or be really easy to find the problem. Oh, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should do that to fix it. But instead, what is the gold in what they're sharing? And I'll give us, it's going to be quick, 30 seconds to share a current challenge. And I want the other person to look for the gold in that challenge and I'll stop you, you'll probably be mid-story, and ask you to reflect the gold you found back. Are we ready? All right, let's go. All right, stop. So wherever we are in the story, we've heard a little bit about something that somebody's finding challenging, right? Whether it's about themselves, whether it's about a situation, whether it's about something going on. I want the partner now to reflect back potential gold they see in the situation, in the conversation. Maybe it's a perspective that the person sharing the story couldn't see. Maybe somebody's giving you, well, this is what I see as a challenge or a problem, and you're like, well, and here's a gift I see in this, right? Which isn't ignoring or glossing over. I'm asking us to skip over the acknowledgement, skip over the validation, skip over all the other things that would be like, okay, they didn't hear me at all, right? So we're skipping all that, and we're just going to, what is a piece of gold that you saw in what was shared? Yeah.
Mario was talking about how his daughter went through a lot of challenges last year, like really changed from the straight arrow course that she had been on and was known to be, and so went through a lot of challenges in school and outside of school. But this year, she has had awareness and is taking the steps to like address the issues and the problems. So his concern is, oh, well, I left out a part. She's coming to him and saying, can you help me, you know, attack this next thing that I need to fix? And so I would call the problem that you're just struggling to know how to best support her and continue to encourage her along the path. And to me, the gold is that she's coming to you. Yeah. You know, she is looking to you as her, what's the word I'm looking for? Unconditional love and support. So, like, embrace that and do everything you can to make sure that she continues to see you that way. So for me, like, my mind goes to like, don't have like a negative reaction if she says something that's like, oh my God, you did what? You know, or, but just like, you know, be that rock for her.
I love that. It's a great example. I want you to turn to your partners, and I know you've just done it, but turn to your partners and reflect back the gold. No, it sets this up perfectly, right? It's a powerful reflection, because it's so easy to miss. I'm so busy trying to fix the problem that like I can completely miss that your daughter came to you, right? Like, girl, dad. I don't know anything about that, but I'm sure it's awesome. So reflect back to your partner the gold you hear in their situation. All right, stop wherever we are. And now I want us to switch roles. So I want to bring us back to, right, this ontological access point of, think of someone you once underestimated but surprised you, right? So again, as we're switching, you can even bring yourself right back to that moment, right? You thought about it earlier, it's the same person, we don't have to come up with something new. Bring yourself back to that moment. Think about that shift of seeing the greatness, right? Your ability to, like, you saw something new, you saw something in that relationship or in that challenge. Now, another access point to this could be, you could say, hey, find something that you knew was terrible for you, right? As you were going through it, you hated every second of it. Right? This is awful. For me, it would have been the 2-year process of running a business with no cash as the banks pulled back the credit lines, having to lay my people off, creditors calling, eventually filing bankruptcy, and I knew that was the end and the worst thing ever. Or some of the stuff with my wife. Like, any of these little access points come up, And now it's like, people ask me all the time, well, would you trade it? I'm like, no, I wouldn't trade those 2 years for anything in the world. There was so much learning and growth and value. It didn't feel good, but that's a very visceral moment for me, right? So find the gold in something that, as you're going through it, you were sure was bad. Right? Another way to do this may be accessing the story of the guy on the horse, or the kid and the horse, right? So all of these little things for us can be access points into this way of being. So I invite you to do that. We'll switch it up a little bit. Think of that moment for you. What is that moment that you can actually see yourself in? And back then, it was like, this is the worst thing ever. This is negative, this is bad. And now you're in a place where we might even be thanking God that we went through that, right? Thankful for that moment. It may be losing a job, maybe losing a relationship, right? That girl, that guy you broke up with, and you think about the relationship that you now have. It may have been a divorce, and maybe you're on the other side of it and you're with somebody new. Right? So there are all these different ontological access points to enter into this way of being. So once you have that moment, I want you all to switch. And so now the other person shares a current challenge, something they're messing with, something that feels uncomfortable, something that feels challenging right now. And the listener is going to be looking for the gold in what they're sharing. And go.
I'll stay on my 16-year-old. So I think that some of this is typical for this age anyway, but they're feeling a lot of like confusion and alienation in school about like this. Yesterday apparently was this giant Halloween party that one of the classmates threw, and Jen was not invited. And they weren't literally the only person not invited, but one of the few, at least this is all according to them, like who knows what, but the perception was, and like all the friends were like talking about the party in front of them, and they were just texting at lunch saying, I feel like all of my friends actually hate me, and I don't know who, I'm so confused about who I am, and it gets overwhelming to me. Like I feel like I have like no membrane between their pain and my, so.
And now, if you were the listener, reflect back the gold in the situation. Oh boy. So reflect back the gold you heard and what was shared.
So instantly, the acceptance that you have for your child, like I noticed it immediately because you even said they, them, like I picked up on that, and I think you are so invested that you feel their pain, you feel where they are, and it touches you. Now, how to maneuver that, like that's definitely something that you all are going to work through together, because you probably never experienced it the way they are experiencing, maybe in a different way, but something that I guess you all can go through together, and that's bring you all closer, you know what I'm saying, because that's clearly a struggle they're dealing with, and it's not going to be the first time or the last time, so
all right, and stop. And now, if you were the listener, reflect back the gold in the situation of what you were hearing. So reflect back the gold you heard and what was shared. All right. So I have a question for the room. So the first thing we did is we found these access points, right? We either imagined someone who surprised us or exceeded kind of how we saw them before, that shifted, that grew. The second time we saw a challenge or a problem that, looking back, we're actually thankful for. Our perspective on it has changed. I'm curious, as you were telling the story of the challenge, even before your partner reflected some of the gold, could you see opportunity? Could you see something helpful? Did it feel different rather than just being a problem? James like, no, that's a problem.
It still felt problematic.
Yeah. Did you find any gold in her problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's learning who she is.
Yeah. So it's interesting because not only can these be helpful for other people, but if we come from this place and how we look at something, sometimes it can shift even without another voice, or it's not about the other person. It's about, okay, if I'm going into this conversation with an employee or with my wife as if this is a problem. Is that the place I really want to? Is there a more powerful place for me to come from? Can I look for the gold before the conversation even exists? Damien, I'm curious, what is the gold you see in this impending conversation with Coach Anthony?
Just co-leadership, curious collaboration, and empowerment.
Yeah, not only it provided an incredible conversation for us this morning, an opportunity for you to grow as a leader. And, my God, safer kids.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm worried it's gonna like worsen your relationship.
Yeah.
It's gonna do the opposite.
Yeah. Because chances are that dude, maybe his big personality, some of it comes from people don't really see him or feeling unseen or like really unseen, or people only like me as the coach or whatever it is. Who knows? All right, I know I'm pushing and we will have time for lunch, but I want to do one more. Who's got one more curiosity on the board? What's the number we haven't talked about yet?
Can we do be devoted, because that's
Yeah,
the
it's,
hardest one.
I was about to say, if you just jumped in, perfect time. What did you say?
I just sing the song, Hopelessly
I don't think I know that song. Oh, that's wow. Yeah. Somebody asked me, I think Jamie asked me yesterday about music. Not that. So yeah, this will be a cool one to wrap up with. I think it's probably the least prescriptive one out here as far as like, okay, this or this or this. But if you had to ask yourself, what am I devoted to? Was that 10? Right? Think of a cause, and don't do anything with your partner, just sit with this question. Think of a cause, a person, or a mission you would crawl through fire for. Right? Think of a cause, a person, or a mission you would crawl through fire for. And I just want you to sit for a moment in that feeling of total surrender. Like it just doesn't matter. Like I am completely and utterly devoted to this cause, this person, this mission, whatever it may be for you. Right? And feel the surrender, feel the complete devotion. Right? Maybe it's to someone's safety, maybe it's to someone's love or feeling loved, to supporting them, to seeing the best in them. Maybe there's a mission out there, for all of the stuff we see in the news. We see deep devotion on both sides of these issues, right? And we see the lengths people will go through, right, on both sides of these issues because they're that devoted without even judging if it's right or wrong or it should be like this or should be this. Like, okay, like people are going through lengths. So what is that for you? The cause, the person, or the mission you would crawl through fire for? And now what I want you to do with this is and we'll go one partner and then the other, but I want you to turn to your partner and name that, right? Name what it is you're devoted to. And you can complete this out loud, right? So I don't want us to talk about it. I want you to complete this sentence. Like so you feel what that devotion looks like and feels like in your body. So if somebody who didn't know anything about that situation or that person or what it is, but how would somebody know you were devoted to something? So finish the sentence. You will know I am devoted because today I will, or this week I will, or this month I will. You'll know I'm devoted to this because I will what? How does this show up? And this is the part of making it practical, right? We can make it ethereal, we can make it theoretical, but let's find that access point. Say, you're going to know I'm devoted because what is that? Share with your partners.
I'm not sure if I'm following correctly, but I would say you'll know I'm devoted because I'll never lose patience.
Never lose patience. You'll know I'm devoted because the way I will reach out to my daughter's mother.
If you haven't switched, go ahead and switch.
It's in the best interest of my daughter to have her in her life represented in a way that is fruitful because she needs her mom.
That's perfect. It's like, I can't think of a better example.
Well, my daughter and I, we're there's a missing piece. And getting out of my way, I'm trying to bring us together. And so it's
co-parenting thing.
Yeah. And a lot of that patience that you speak on happening.
All right, so we're going to pause here. I'm curious, just quickly, one or two reflections on, I think, the feeling of this, right? Not the things we're saying, but did you notice any difference in coming from this place? Like, were you able to find a place to come from, and what impact did that have on the experience?
There's more confidence in coming up with the answer. You just instinctively know it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, it's such a great thing because do you know how many clients come to me or people come to me and say, you know what I need? I need more confidence. And their answer is, tell me what to do. Like, what do I need to read? What do I need to listen? What do I need to do? And here we're talking about, you talk about leadership. Leadership's about compressing time. And here we're talking about, what if we could just access that in 30 seconds through one of these entry points? You know, so that's a beautiful example. What else?
Passion.
Yeah. See, I can make sounds too. Well, because the curiosity I have, so say more about that. Say more about feeling Jamie's passion.
Like you're brought into what she's talking about, and she's simply painting a picture of how deep and meaningful what she's devoted to is for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And did that deep passion feel confrontational? Did it feel challenging? And I'm asking these things because I know we've talked a lot about how people receive you and how people interpret or misinterpret some of your energy. So I just wonder about what quarter turn may be available if I'm coming from this place of devotion versus this is the right answer and I need to get all these people to see it. Right? And it could be the same information. I could be having the same conversation, but can people feel a little more of this and it's harder to be misinterpreted as something else? You know, now the subject matter here helps, but we can take this. The idea is to take this feeling. Be awesome. What else?
One go question.
Sure.
How would you distinguish between the devotion and the love?
Yeah, be love. I think some of these are really connected. Yeah. I think they're really connected, and which is why, like, again, this is something that we can tease apart, right? Maybe some of these didn't speak to you at all, and right, maybe you develop a practice and say, I want to play with this, and these are my top 3, or these are my top 5, or top 8. Maybe, you know what, this whole devotional thing, it didn't do anything for me. You know what? You know, maybe this other thing didn't do. Leave it, right? Take the gold and leave the rest. So I would say that. I would say if those feel really close to you, if one feels like it's better than the other, by the way, this is not some copyrighted right way to do this. So what I mean by that is maybe you say my ontological access point is to be devoted and come from love. You know, I am pure devotion and absolute love, right? You find language that resonates for you. So my invitation here is to make all this your own. Right? Make everything in this program your own. When you go back to your teams, take hey, you know, Daryl used being language, but I like the way, let's be more intentional about the way we show up. Right? So all of this stuff, there's nothing we've talked about in here that I don't want you to take back and let go of this idea of right or wrong. It's like, what's going to allow this person to hear it, or what's going to allow me to access this even easier, and then do that. All right. It's time to eat.